sucks. This guy's good. All that stuff. And I'm sitting there like chewing the hell out of gum. It's just not the same.
Do you do the zins?
No, man. I've been praying about going cold turkey.
Yeah,
Man. I'm like, I
yeah.
got to do this, man.
No, but I'm just asking, like, if you have tried them,
nah,
just like
I know people that do.
times where you can't go on a smoke break or something.
Nah, I would always make time, dude. I built my schedule where I'm like, shoot, I'm not a slave. I can go smoke if I want to, you know.
Well, so
Except for me, that's why I douse cologne. People are like, man, he smells good all the
He
time.
smells good.
I'm like, nigga, because I just smoked 14 cigarettes outside, chain smoked them, worried about where I'm gonna get this next.
what's your favorite cologne?
Oh, I use a Cremo. I'm cheap,
Oh,
dude. Colin Cowherd, I'm a big sports guy, so the Cowherd, who does sports on
Not
Fox
the solid cologne, right?
No, it's just spray.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's spray.
Okay.
They have this Cremo, man, that smells like sandalwood or some kind of like manly stuff.
It's the soap, right? Cremo.
No, it's a brand that makes soap.
That's what I'm
and
saying.
cologne
It's-
and body wash.
yeah.
Yeah, they're a brand. Cheap though, man. I'm not gonna drop $400 on 7 ounces. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'll let you know that we got a buddy that can get any fragrance, like $700 cologne, $400, $200 cologne. He can get it for you.
I feel like we should
for
be having this
$30.
conversation in the back of a car
No,
somewhere. like,
man.
With
I've
I got some
promoted-
mixtapes.
I promoted his business on my podcast.
What DVD you want burned? I got it all, brother.
Ask Ramos. Like he, I don't know if you're familiar with that baccarat. It's all over TikTok, bro.
Oh man.
And anyways,
Sometimes I'm an old man, and sometimes I get into TikTok like 6 months later. My kids are like, Dad, that's like.
you're treating it like it's.
I'm
new.
like, have you seen this? We're like, yeah, 6 months ago, fool.
So it's all over TikTok, like these dupe fragrances or whatever for
Mm-hmm.
this Baccarat Rouge.
Okay.
And Ramos got it, and he said that he started wearing it to work, and then everybody was like, "Hey man, what's that smell?" And then he like hooked up everybody with
Yeah.
this dude. But anyways,
Is that
he
why
can
my mail
score-
smells like that? Ramos, get it together, bro.
He can score any fragrance.
He's
is
like,
what he
so
said.
when that light bill's due, at least it smells good.
Yeah.
He's like, we're gonna cut your shit off if you don't pay by tomorrow, but at least it's
At
good.
least you'll smell good.
at least the bill smells good coming in.
Yeah. So, anyways, I tell you that just in case you did want to splurge on
I got
a
you.
fragrance,
Also, make me sound sexier, Ramos, and taller.
we'll get you to sound taller for sure.
Yeah, man. I want to sound 6'4", 220.
All right, man.
Whenever you're ready, brother. I sound all right?
Yeah, you do. Yes,
Okay.
sir. You ready? All
Whenever
right,
you
here we
are.
go.
Genre. Media.
Okay, here we go.
All you ladies, pull your chi-chis out. This is the JP Lopez Show. Also, if you're a transgender, pull your pecker out. This is the JP Lopez Show.
What is up? Thank you for tuning back into the JP Lopez Show. I got Ken Adams, the should I say the voice of well, you're the host of the Thin Line.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Put it out there.
The Thin Line with Ken Adams, and that's on 98.7.
FM KWBF.
There
Yep.
you
Walk
go.
by Faith Radio. Yep.
Happy to have you on, man.
Happy to
so,
be here.
Happy Valentine's Day. Today's Valentine's Day.
The day of love.
Hope you got your wife some. Do you celebrate Valentine's Day?
No, it's against my religion. No, I'm kidding, man.
We
No,
don't. We don't.
No, it's a thing. I'm trying to get better at it. I hate the commercialized holidays
Yeah.
because I feel like they're getting one over on me. But I also feel like such a failure if you don't show
If
up
you
with
don't-
something. You know what I'm saying? It's like, because, all the people are posting on the social media what they got their wives or husbands. And I'm like, oh, I want to protest that BS holiday because I'll do it when I want to do it. And then it's like, oh, man, what a loser you are.
And then you cave in.
Yeah,
I
I do, man.
I get-
Commercialization, it gets me every time.
The wife, we don't celebrate Valentine's, but she always wants chocolate covered strawberries,
Oh, yeah, that's a thing.
and I always rebel. I'm like, nah, you're not getting them.
Man,
Like,
I got a funny story about chocolate-covered strawberries that I don't know if my wife will listen back to this later or family. My father-in-law has since passed on, so I'm going to tell this story with fine affection. But me and my wife, we weren't even married yet. We were just living together. He was letting me live in his house. I was this runny kid that, got his daughter pregnant. He was always, sneaking in the room, putting his knife on my throat while I was asleep, like, saying, certain words. I won't say them out loud on the radio. I'm used to the FCC, blocking me.
yeah.
So I forget on a podcast I can
you
say what I want.
whatever.
Yeah, man. So I'm used to, that kind of thing. But I would see just like him move in the shadows of the dark. And one day I was trying to be real romantic. It was Valentine's Day. And I went and bought these expensive giant. We used to have a chocolate store in Lubbock back in the day. I think it was called Rocky Mountain or something like back in the mall.
Yo, yeah,
And they
yeah.
would actually dip them, man, like by hand and like make the chocolate. We actually had like a
Wow, I
chocolate
didn't know that.
factory. It was like a thing. Used to be next to that shoe store, Jarman's. And so it was like a real thing. I went and paid all this money for these bad boys, put them in the fridge, and I was like, man, can't wait. She's going to get home. I'm going to be romantic. And woke up the next morning. My father-in-law was eating those bad boys, man. He was walking around the kitchen. He had a mouthful of them, and he was like, man, somebody bought chocolate-covered strawberries, Ken. He was like, get you one, man. He just finished chorizo and egg burritos, and I was like, say, man, those are like $10 a strawberry for my girl, your daughter. He was like, not in my house, fool. No romantic junk happening here. Now I realize what he was doing years later. Years later I realized it, but now we still joke about that, man. So I hate Valentine's Day for that reason. The father-in-law set it up for me that way, and he was always good at giving gifts too. Took care of his wife, so he was always good at that. And then, chocolate-covered strawberries just make me angry. So when my daughter gets married, I'll do stuff like that to her husband. I'll figure out ways to block them.
Dude, that's hilarious. That's an awesome story for your kids, though.
No, it's a real story, man. Anytime we do chocolate-covered strawberries, my wife looks at me and I'm like, man, you're dead. And he enjoyed it too, man. He was just like, you're living here rent-free. You got my daughter pregnant. I hate you. I'm eating your strawberries.
That's what I was about to say. Is he knew?
He was like, no one's getting any kind of action tonight, especially you, sir. You've had enough action. You owe me these strawberries.
Chorizo was good. Strawberries are good.
Yeah,
I guess I'll go to work.
Yeah, I was just like, man, I was mad.
Hey, kid, get you on,
Oh,
man.
he loved it, man. He loved it. It was a thing. We joke about it even to this day, man. So anyway, so happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
All you dads out there, get chocolate covered strawberries.
It's like we talked before the podcast, man. Like I don't pay for the attention at the titty bars. How I don't enjoy a titty bar.
Yeah.
I never did. The only time I did was my very first time, and we went to the Yellow Rose. And I don't know if any of you young cats are familiar with that, but that is the worst, most ghettoest place Lubbock
you had to burn
ever
those
had.
shoes on the way out, bro.
Dude.
You couldn't take those home. I think the
And-
shoes had gonorrhea.
And I remember, and I'm not joking, man. I remember there was probably like a 370, 380 pound stripper there my first night, and I loved it. I was like, oh yes, like
It's like an episode of The Family Guy or
it was
The
definitely
Simpsons or something like that.
out of like a sitcom,
Yeah.
like for real. And
Good old
then
Lubbock, baby.
and then so we get out of that. That was my first time. It set the bar high for me because I was like, yeah, this. I love this trash. And then we go to a regular, and I'm like,
You're like,
yeah.
that girl weighs 110.
yeah.
I'm not gonna
That
do it.
girl just wants $20 of my time, like, and then when my $20 is up, then she's on to the next one. I'm like, nah, screw it.
That's awesome.
So,
man.
anyways, I tell you all that because Valentine's is like it's like you said, you got to floss on the gram to show. Look
Yep.
what my husband got me, and I'm like, nah,
It's got to
I'm
be
not that
Facebook
person.
official,
Yeah.
man. No, you fellas get out there and do something because you're gonna feel like crap tomorrow going through your feed and seeing everybody enjoy. Look what my man got me, and then you're gonna get the cold shoulder for at least a week.
Or just hop on to Walgreens and shop on that discount shit.
Man, they make it
tomorrow.
easy.
Yeah.
They make it easy for you. You should have been stocked up from last year, man. Get a storage building, put that stuff in there so you're always on ready to
So
go,
the
man.
chocolate don't go bad.
This is Halloween chocolate. Why am I getting this?
And then we'll pivot to what we're about to go into.
No, it's
So
it's a real thing.
Today's Ash Wednesday.
Ash Wednesday.
Yeah, so-
happy Valentine's Day and Ash Wednesday.
So the season of Lent is upon us, and you come from a faith-based radio show.
Yeah.
And-
everything I do, man, has a biblical worldview to it. And so, I cut up and I laugh and I have a good time because, one, I know God has a sense of humor because He's dealt with me.
Yeah.
And I've seen myself naked. I know He has a sense of humor. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you telling me the only black guy that can't run fast, can't sing, can't dance? Come on, man. Yeah, God definitely has a sense of humor.
I'm sure you can cut a rug, man. I'm sure you're selling yourself short.
And I can do a little something.
There you go.
If I get enough excitement juice in me, I can do a little
Yeah,
something.
get the courage juice.
Yeah,
in you.
I can make it happen. No, man. So Ash Wednesday. Now I'm not Catholic, so I'll I am a believer of Jesus Christ, obviously, but I'm not Catholic, so I'm not familiar with some of the sacraments and some of the traditions
Yeah.
and rituals and things that play out in the Catholic Church, and or even in some of the Catholic Church sisters that kind of spawn off. So I won't pretend to talk about those things, but yeah, man. I mean, yeah, let's get into it. What do you want to know? What do you want to talk about?
So the thing is
I'm game for whatever.
What I had as a topic is faith-based fasting, and it stems from the 40 days and 40 nights that Jesus fasted. So I kind of wanted to get your input and thoughts on faith-based fasting, because I'll tell you a little story. I had a friend who was battling cancer, and she was stage 4. So I asked the most holiest person of my family, which is my tia Janie, and
We all have a Tia Janie.
and she
Sorry.
and I was like, just please put my friend in your prayer group and pray for her. She's fighting cancer. So a couple months go by, and she calls me, and she's like, "Hey, I just wanted to check and see how you were doing, but I really called to see how your friend was doing." And I was like, "Oh, she's like doing well. Like she's, accepting treatment pretty well. They're saying that she's gonna beat cancer." And she told me, and it hit me I never thought of it in this way, but she goes, Mijo, I've been fasting for her
Wow.
and praying for her that she heals herself from cancer. And that always stuck with me.
Do you know if the other person was fasting too, or just your Tia Jeannie?
No, that I know of, just my tia Janie.
Wow. So when you ask me about fasting, this is one of my favorite topics. I actually talk about it on my show quite often. We do these mental health days and these physical, Wellness Wednesday type days. And as a matter of fact, we'll do one today, right? And so we do these and we talk about it. And fasting always comes up for weight loss, but also for cellular reproduction. And the way I understand it is when you fast for longer than 3 days, 2 days, 48 hours, something called ketosis kicks in, and autophagy. These two things kick in. And so autophagy will, and again, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to pretend to be one. So there's your disclaimer. I don't treat or diagnose anything. This is just my opinion, right? So JP's clear and free. No lawsuits coming his way or my way. No, it's one of those things where at the cellular level, I did work in a lab for 15 years. And what I understand is your body starts to hit the recycle bin, or like deleting the trash from your computer, right? And all those trash cells start going in, and they start, your cells, the good cells eat up the bad cells, and they digest them and get rid of them. And cancer is bad cells, right? And they spread. So from a physical standpoint, fasting can do so much to you. Now there's like this window, like a 24 to 48 hour window where you feel like trash because you're fighting the cravings, you're fighting all that stuff. And so physically, a lot of stuff starts to happen in that realm, and it messes with you. And then you get over that hump, and they say it comes in waves. So it's like 48 hours, that third day, and then it starts really hitting the recycle button, man, and just starts cleaning out those bad cells. A really good resource for this, because again, I'm not a doctor, but I've just read a lot about this information, is it's so my sources trust me, bro. No. So it's Dr. Fung. He's a doctor out of Fung, Fung. He's a doctor out of Canada who's written a bunch of articles, written a bunch of books, and he has a YouTube and all kind of stuff. And he really breaks down the cellular nerdy stuff that I can't quite articulate right now. He does that very, very well. Now, from a spiritual standpoint, what's intriguing about what you just said about your Tia Janie is, it's this fasting on behalf of someone else. And, the scriptures talk about this, that we have the ability to intercede for people, to go to bat for people, to have their backs. And, man, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Because what it's saying is she did it to herself, and it, her friend got healed from it. You know what I mean? And so, and we see that that's not, I always look for things in the scriptures like, have I seen this somewhere before? Well, yeah, man, there was a man who was paralyzed and couldn't walk, and the faith of his friends cutting a hole in the roof, putting him in front of Jesus, got the man healed. You know what I mean? So we have a precedent for this. And I think that's even more remarkable. Now, fasting does some other things to you, spiritually speaking. And I got some notes here. I'll try to pull some of these up, but fasting does a couple of things for you. if I just go through the physical first, let's hit those first because I do want to, because there's some physical benefits, right? One, it promotes blood sugar control by reducing insulin resistance. So all of us who grew up eating tortillas and refried beans and chorizo and egg, we know, yeah, man, that stuff spikes. With that diabetes, it plays with us, it messes with us, especially nowadays. We can get in trouble with that stuff. But it does promote a blood sugar control and reducing the insulin inflammation. So it helps with that. It does fight inflammation. So it those joints and they won't crystallize, they won't hurt as bad. So there's some of that. And then you have some heart improvement with the blood flow and your blood pressure, triglycerides, cholesterol. So there's lots of that in the physical, right? Brain function. After your third day, people get really, really sharp, really keen. But for the first 3 days, man, you're cloudy. You're angry. You're breaking that, all that, I would say addiction for the lack of better words, but cravings and just, your body's used to that stuff. Now, if we move from there to the spiritual benefits, that's really what you wanted to talk about. But
I want to talk about it all. I mean, we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm game. I just wanted people to understand that because I never really separate mind, body, soul, even because I don't quite understand it. And I'll just be honest, because I'm intrigued by it. I know we live in these physical bodies. God gave us these bodies. We only get one. We got to be a good steward of it. And then there's this spiritual element that lives on forever. So the physical experience, I always call it the human experience instead of life, because it's like a roller coaster. You're only going to be on it for a little bit. If you get 80 years out of it, that's solid, man. That's awesome. And then what happens? You're in eternity forever, right? So the spiritual stuff really needs to be addressed. The mental stuff, it all has to be addressed. Mind, body, soul. And so physically, I just want people to know you're going to feel some kind of way. You're going to feel different. You're going to have a different outlook's going to come upon you, whether it be mentally, physically. You shed some pounds, skin look a little bit more glowy. You're going to feel better. So some stuff's going to happen. Spiritually, though, man, and this is what I found, and this was not easy because I did a 3-day fast one time because I was going through a really tough life situation, and I really wanted God to move in my life, and he did. But I didn't quite understand spiritual warfare. I didn't quite understand fasting and what that does because we don't see these things. And again, I'm a spiritual person, so I believe, I'm a Christian. I believe that, just like there's angels, there's demons, we have an enemy. The scriptures teach all this stuff. And so and I won't get too preachy on any of that, but it's just there, like we understand it. And so as I was fighting for a physical thing to happen, I felt led to do a 3-day prayer. And I don't recommend this to anybody unless you feel like that's your own conviction in your heart. So there's my disclaimer. I'm not saying this is like a formula that will work for everybody. I just know this is what I felt like. Hey, do you care enough about this situation? Do you want to see God move enough in this situation that you're willing to push away food for 3 days? And for me, I was like, yeah, you know what? And I went on very little sleep, basically no sleep also for those 3 days.
Oh, wow.
Because I wanted, when I was supposed to be sleeping, I prayed all through the night. I'd never done this in my life, by the way. I was going through a really tough situation that I wanted to see change. And I'm telling you, man, it took about a week, but that situation changed. And it was a big situation. God preserved a relationship. He restored some things. But it took, about a week, but it took me 3 days of just straight fasting and praying.
To prepare for this fast, did you research or you just did it?
I just went straight in and did it because I was up against it. And unfortunately, that's kind of the human condition, right? Like we really aren't motivated to move and do something serious unless she packs her bags, unless the doctor gives you a diagnosis, unless they hand you a pink slip, or unless that wrecker pulls up and he's loading up your truck and you're like, oh. They're repoing my car right now, So unfortunately, with human beings, we just don't take things serious until we get stage 4, or until we get that whatever that thing is. One step over it is when we get serious. Luckily for us, God is a God of grace, mercy, and He's full sufficient, and He's not caught off guard, and He knows the things that make you move, and the things that the Bible describes it in Proverbs like heat that. Purifies gold and silver and precious metals. You put them through that fire, and what comes out on the other side of the filter is this pure specimen. You know what I mean? And so He knows that. He's not surprised by these things. He's not freaked out by it. We don't know. And so when I went through that situation, I didn't know on the other side of that 3 days if I was going to have my prayer answered. I didn't know if things were going to go the way I wanted. I'm sure your aunt may not have known. Your Thea Jenny may not have known, but she just went all in. And I think that's what it's about, is the going all in. Like, will you just ride or die with me? Are you going to go all in or not? I think that's where it's at.
Yeah, it's just like I've always heard of fasting throughout your entire life, but it's like we can go deep into conspiracy because we're taught in school that you can only go a certain amount of days without food or water,
Right.
and obviously that's false, and we just have learned since we're kids and been told since we're kids that that's it, and then we took it for its word, and
Yeah.
you're like, well, I'm not gonna fast because I might die. You know what I'm saying?
Now I will say this: if you weigh like 70 pounds, you might want to just make sure you're hearing the Lord right and make sure you do your homework. I weigh a couple 100 pounds, so I'm
Yeah,
like, you know what? I can miss a meal or two.
It'd be safe to say if you weigh 70 pounds, you're not thinking about fasting.
You might want to
Yeah.
be careful. No, I would say do everything with with wisdom. Don't just do things. Even the Bible says that, man. You count the cost before you build a house, because if you don't, your people are gonna walk by and make fun of you. They're like, dude, you laid the foundation, you got the beams up, but you couldn't finish this bad boy. Like,
Yeah.
what were you thinking? That's scriptural, man. The Bible's like, hey, don't count the cost first. And so I would say with everything, and this is really what it comes down to, and this leads into a few other things that we were going to talk about later. But you talk about the spiritual benefits of fasting. Well, and I go through a few of these because I have a few of these. First of all, and I don't want to say this, it should be done in secret. This, I'm not one of those people that believes that you live your religion or your spirituality in a closet in secret at home. No, I believe you live it out loud. Who you are is who you are. If you're that dude, be that dude out in the town square. If you have drinks like you do. Don't hide it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, be the guy, because God already knows, right? So be that dude. Like, if you're that girl, you're that guy, be that guy. The guy's not intimidated by that. He may call you to change and move. And we were talking before the show, man, human beings don't hold the keys to heaven, right? So as you're growing and developing and moving along the path that God has you on, as long as you and the man upstairs are solid, that's all that matters. He's the Heavenly Father, right? So as you're growing and moving, but I think those things, like, it says when you fast in secret, like don't put it on TikTok.
No, yeah, for
don't be
sure.
like day 7, no food, like, I hope God answers. No, don't be that person, man. We're so driven by clicks and going viral.
It's great that you say that, though. Is like fasting in secret. It makes sense because people love to put their life on social media like it's a TV show. Yeah,
We all live in this suspended reality, man. Like, we think we're on a reality TV show. You said it just right, man.
and
That's
they're
perfect.
addicted to the comments like, "You got this, girl," or "You got this," and "We're behind you." It's just you got to check your social media every 3 minutes for a new comment or a new like or.
That's a real thing. If you don't believe us, put your phone down for just 2 days. Like, don't do the stuff that you like for 2 days, or just try not to eat, I don't know, tortillas or chocolate, or drink your favorite drink or whatever your thing is. Just 2 days. Try it for 2 days and see how worked up you get.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it'll mess with you, man.
So obviously we're recording this prior to today, but today I listened to your Wellness Wednesday,
Oh, yeah.
and I really enjoyed it, and I really would like to have that doctor's thoughts on.
He's
on,
legit, man.
On
Dr. John Thomas, man.
Dr. Fauci. I really would like that'd be a
Man.
whole podcast
So-
within itself.
So I police him. So here's the thing. He is a very, very wise doctor. This dude is amazing. His name is Dr. John Thomas. He travels the world. He does speaking engagements, but he's a surgeon. And I've known him for years, man. I used to work in a lab with his brother that was a manager. So crazy how God connects these dots, dude. Like, I didn't know I'd be doing radio, interviewing this dude later on. And his brother used to be my boss. And his
Yeah.
brother was the guy that taught me the philosophy of play hard, work hard, get your job. I mean, I was like 19, man, working these grown-up jobs. I had 2 kids, and they were mentoring me. You know what I'm saying?
Sweet.
And I didn't know 15 years later I'd be
Yeah.
interviewing his brother on a radio show, and he would be, walking me into places that I never thought I'd be in, and we'd be talking politics and vaccines.
But imagine not policing him and having his thoughts on Fauci.
At the FCC, man. This is why I wanted to do your podcast so bad and come on and shout out to John Eric Media, man.
Yeah.
Those guys, I've known John and Eric since junior high days, but shout out to them because they're really putting together something really good. The team is strong. You guys are building something great. Check out all their
appreciate that,
podcasts too,
man.
man.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
And I won't use the phrase y'all used earlier because. But I do like doing the podcast because I can be a little bit more rated R, rated X on the podcast. The FCC does not play on the
No, they
radio,
don't.
man.
No.
They will shut that whole thing down. If the government's listening now, man, you guys suck.
So would you say like the first few days of fasting is basically like a detox because people are addicted to food?
You hit it right on the head, man.
Like, and especially sugar, man. Like, I couldn't tell you how many people that I've known that are diabetic and have lost limbs and still eat
Yeah.
bad and just can't change that lifestyle or change that diet.
You know, man, I used to make fun of people like this because I was in the medical field. I shared with you before. We went on air, off the air, about my relationship with my grandfather. He had some limbs amputated, was a diabetic. I didn't quite understand his responsibility versus, being a good steward, and God's responsibility as being a faithful father to all of his creation, and the roles that we play in that, what our responsibility is. I was a young kid. And so it kind of made me feel some kind of way about God that he didn't perform this, genie in a bottle type miracle on my command, right? So I was a little upset about that. As I've grown and matured and learned, man, you're absolutely right. There is something going on with sugar that is, I've read some statistics. It's even more addictive than cocaine and like marijuana and alcohol. And you're like, what? And that stuff's legal. They put it in our food on purpose, and extra doses of it, and fake sugar and all kind of stuff.
And it's so
man.
hidden. Like,
It's everywhere, man.
Like, I couldn't tell you when I jumped on a keto diet not too long ago. Well, I say not too long ago, but when I first started the keto diet, it's probably like 4 years ago, and I was learning to look and read the labels, and you'd be amazed to see how much stuff that said sugar-free, and then you turn the label around, and it was like fructose corn syrup or whatever.
Oh, there, man.
But they get away with it because there's no added sugar. Like,
yeah. They can even put all natural or whatever. It's crazy how they can manipulate us. But you're right. Fasting, it cleanses. First it cleanses. So it's really cool because, again, mind, body, soul, right? It cleanses the body on the physical side. So you're going through this detox. So you might feel some kind of way. So folks that are going through like a 2-day fast or an intermittent fasting, just anticipate you're going to be a little grumpy. You know what I mean? Like like be ready that you might have a mood swing. You might be at the house and just snap at your wife or your husband. You're like, what was that about?
What was that?
Well, because, fool, you hadn't had your triple cheeseburger today, and you're upset because you didn't get your extra large fries. And, and so you just might feel some kind of way. So just, I'm telling you, prepare yourself for that. Go ahead and apologize to your wife or husband and say, man, I'm sorry for what I'm going to say when I'm hungry, because in the next 2 days I'm detoxing this machine and it's not liking it. You know what I mean? On the spiritual side, it does the same exact thing. And this is where, when I did that 3-day fast, and I just did 3 days. I didn't even attempt to do a month or 40 days like Jesus. I wasn't even thinking that. I needed a result then. And the only thing I knew to do at that time was, man, you know what? I got to cry out to God. And finally something in my life made me say, I'm going to push away food and sleep. And I need to have a conversation with the Heavenly Father. Like, I don't need like an angel. I don't need like a precious moments. I don't need someone to text me something. Like, I need to talk to the man upstairs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need you to know I'm going through it. And I shared some things with you off air that I've seen God move and reveal himself throughout, and use my own words in the garage and different things, and like say, hey, man, I'm listening to you. But this was like a kid storming into his parents' bedroom and saying, Dad, I got my butt kicked today, and can you go down to the school and handle this for me? Like, there's something going on over here, man. And that's what to me, that, and again, I just use layman's terms, but to me, that's what fasting and praying is. It's like, man, you're barging into the bedroom of the Father, and you're like, Dad, we got to talk, man. Like, I could send my sister in here. I could talk to Mom about this, but you know what? I need your attention. And so to me, that's what fasting and prayer, it's a private, intimate thing. You don't, highlight it or get all, celebritize it. But on the spiritual side, it does the same detox. It's a cleansing of the soul, raises the mind. And it makes it, what it does is it puts the body in check, because our bodies and our desires, man, like literally when I leave here, or even right now, I could order whatever I want. Damn near 99% of anything I could think of right now on this little iPad, I could order, and it could be here within 30 minutes. You know what I'm saying? So to put your body in check and to tell yourself no, just for the sake of controlling and saying, no, you don't control me, I control you. You're still my body. You're still my urges. I'm the guy in charge. That's a heavy thing to do. And when you've been brainwashed or when you've been addicted to something, and I'll give you another example. I used to do a once-a-year sabbatical, a little fast from social media. Since I started the radio show, I don't do that as much because we're always doing something, promoting or doing something for the show. And man, for the first 2 weeks of being off that thing, I would feel weird. Like I was like, my hands, I'd be fidgeting because I'm so used to pulling out my phone and and I would just be weird.
You didn't know how to be bored.
Yeah, it was so crazy. When it finally would kick in, I became the old man I made fun of. I'd be at the gas station, and you know those what are those insurance commercials that are like, "Don't be like your parents."
Yeah,
dude,
yeah.
I was that guy.
You grow to be your parents. Yeah, yeah.
Like I'm putting in gas, and they're like, "Don't say hi." I'm like, "Hey, how's it going over there?" They're like, "Dude," because I was like, that's being a human being, right? Like I would go to the cashier and look her in the eye. Where now I'm kind of like, looking around. I type in my code for my rewards, and I leave. And there's not even like a real human being encounter there. And it took about 2 weeks of kind of cleansing that stuff out of me. And then I was like, this is what it feels like to be a human being again. You know what I'm saying?
It's
weird.
funny. It's funny that you said that, that it cleanses your soul, because when I was reading on this topic, and I had read that people fast to resist temptation, it didn't make sense until what you just said now.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
Like it has a hold on us.
Because I was like, how does fasting make you resist temptation? But
Yeah.
it clicked when you just said what you said.
Yeah, so you have that moment where you start being a real human being like we were designed to be before the technology and the busy life schedule where it's about relationship. I can look in your eyes and go, man, this dude probably needs me to say something to him. You know what I mean? Or be stupid or say a dad joke or, dap him up, pull him in, say, hey, man, you good?
Yeah,
There's a a check, like, a wellness check. Are you good? Yeah, I'm good. All right, cool. But we don't do that, man. Like now I'm looking over my shoulder to make sure no one robs me at the gas station, but that's about it. And think about it. They put those stupid screens on the gas station now. They're distracting you with news and top music. And so it doesn't matter if you put your phone up, you're like, and they're robbing you on the gas prices. I can get all into all that stuff, but no, you're right about that, man. It makes you a human being again. And when I say human being, the way we were supposed to be like in the Garden of Eden, like before we got all discombobulated, man, when, walking around naked, enjoying each other, and, the lions aren't eating the sheep and stuff. I mean, it's just harmony, right? And I know that may sound kind of like Zen woo-woo stuff, but it's true. I mean, I went on that fast. I would go on these sabbaticals. And I was like, dude, I feel like a human being again. This is crazy, So it definitely does that, and it also. So there's this one. I don't want to skip over this. There's a sensitivity to God's voice that you hear. So a lot of people say God spoke to me, or I don't hear God speak, or some people say it too much, some people don't say it enough. And I can tell you, man, during those 3 days, it felt like I could hear my inner thoughts like they were thunderous. Like before, where I would go, maybe I have an idea that I want to try this. During those 3 days, it was like bam, bam, bam. It was like A, B, C. Like the blueprint was laid out. Like you need to do this, then this, then this. Before it was more kind of cloudy, kind of like a poor connection. Like electricity. Like you mess with electricity. It's like if you have a short in a wire, you might get a sound and then it disconnects or it connects back, and it's just like
just
that,
real
man.
spotty.
But when you fast, it's like you hear the Lord's voice, or you get led by the Holy Spirit thunderously. Like it's like very detailed. Like do this and leave at this time and go here, and sometimes I read those scriptures and I'm like, how did Jesus do all that stuff? Oh man, he had this whole thing down. Like the fasting, the voice was clear. He would say
Just
stuff.
the spiritual guidance.
Yeah, and he would say stuff like, I only do what the Father wants me to do. I'm only working on what the Father wants me to work on. Because he had this fasting thing down, and he was just like in tune, man. It like made him ultra sensitive to the radar, if you will. You know what I'm saying?
That is crazy, man.
So again, I can at this point, I cannot see any downside to fasting. So if you're thinking about it on this day and you're like, man, it's something my grandparents used to do, my Thea Janie, it's something like that.
Yeah.
And go ahead and give it a go, man. But I would say plan it out. Don't do it on a whim. Like say start small, man. You know what? I'm gonna fast just for the day. So other religions do this. Fasting is not something that's just a Christian or a Catholic or Muslim or Hindu. I mean, a lot of religions practices. One, we understand that there is some health to giving your body a break, but at the same time, you could go like just during the day, like, from sun up to sundown. I won't eat during that time. I'll only eat during a certain window. Intermittent fasting is what they call it. Maybe you only eat from a window of like 11 a.m. to 3, something like that.
Yeah, and then people do that OMAD, the 1 meal a day.
Yeah, 1 meal a day. I've tried that. Some of those are good. Now, I've done a lot of the Wellness Wednesday shows talking to doctors and specialists and nutritionists. And, they say be careful with that stuff if you got kidney problems or if you're taking medications. So, again, just as a disclaimer, be careful when you implement any kind of drastic change like that, count the costs. Make sure if you're taking medications for certain things, make sure you know those things. We don't want you to have a seizure or something like that.
Well, I always tell people, because I come from a powerlifting world for pretty much my entire adult life. So I've been around a bunch of bodybuilders, and people that aspire to be bodybuilders, and they're like, well, I can't get my diet straight. And I would always tell them, like, dude, like, you don't have to jump in it like gung ho. Practice it, like practice that diet like twice a week, and then 3 times a week, and then, I mean, and then maybe you can practice fasting. But
I agree with that.
So
You build resistance.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like training.
rather than just going gung ho, I mean, if you can do it, yeah, like heck yeah. But I wanted to touch a little bit on. So, are you familiar with Dr. Sebi?
Yeah. I've
So-
actually seen some of the TikToks. I've actually seen some of
So
that.
he
YouTube.
was always real big on like ridding the body of mucus, because he basically said like disease basically is a mucus filled body. That's basically all you're dealing with when you've got all these diseases or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you kind of
He was a big gut guy too.
Yeah. And I was kind of a little bit young in my thoughts about that. Like, nah, I don't know. But then this dude, Gary Brecka, are you familiar with him?
Not familiar with him.
So he used to be he used to work for these insurance companies that would like try their best to find loopholes not to pay you and stuff like that. And then like he broke free from that, and he said he couldn't live with his life doing
Dang.
that. So basically, he's basically
dirty.
telling everything about insurance companies and all the scams, and I think that he's true, because a lot of his stuff is like he's already shadow banned, and he's already like been, every post he's like a disclaimer or fact check. So that tells me he's got some kind of truth to him.
Oh yeah, if they
But
label you like that.
he's actually the one that got me thinking about, because he was telling, the video that he posts from time to time about fasting and how it rids your body of like how you said, like this just unwanted disease cells, and like it like you flush it all out and you basically start over new. And he said that you don't know what you could do on a 7-day fast to your body. He's like, you could probably like 70% chance kill the rate of you getting cancer.
Oh yeah, man. Dr. Fung is big on that. I know Dr. Sebi was big on that. And I know they've got these even centers. And so I would tell people again, make sure you research this stuff. But I know they've got like feeding centers, and they've got centers that do things like that will help you walk through fasting. Now, there's no money in fasting, right? So my philosophy or my thought process is, you won't see this from big pharma. You're not going to see this from, the big pharmaceutical companies, big medicine, because there's no commercialization in saying you're just not eating. You can do that for free. No matter how much money you have in the bank or how little, you can be healthy by just pushing some things away and regenerating the cells in the body. So
we won't talk about the devil.
Yeah,
that
man, nah.
pharma company, man.
yeah, that's the thing, man.
Yeah.
And so again, even with something like that, it's like no wonder they don't promote these real health, opportunities or the real health secrets, if you will. And that's scriptural too, man. People die for lack of knowledge, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just not knowing can cause a huge issue for you. But the mucus thing is fairly new to me. I know it's tied to inflammation. I know gut health is really important. From what I understand and from what I've seen, the inner workings of the gut, the belly, it's like the solar system, man. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, there's so many billions and billions of cells. It's like looking up into the night sky, man, where there's billions and billions of stars and galaxies, and you're just like the belly. The gut is the same thing. It's unbelievable that all of that's in your body, man.
It drives me nuts that like I'll take it off topic a little bit, but so you're taught through commercials and through supplement ads like this probiotic, gut health. And then as you're doing research on probiotics, like it doesn't even reach your intestine. Like the bacteria dies, and you're basically throwing your money away.
Some of it's dead before you even open the container.
So now that that's news, now that that's known, well, there's a new supplement with the probiotic, with the prebiotic in it that will make it to your, and you're like, come on, man. Like,
and you know a lot about nutrition, being a bodybuilder too. So much of this stuff you can fix with just real food.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of the thing that I always think about is this man-made or God-made? Like, is this something that needs God's help, or is this something I can create in the lab?
The thing that hit a home run today was when the doctor said you don't see chicken nuggets walking around.
Yeah, man.
And-
That's one of his things.
And it hit home because he's right, man. Like,
He's always telling me, hey, only eat stuff that you see in nature.
Yeah.
You know, when was the last time you seen chicken nuggets, you know, on a farm walking around? He was like, you see chicken breasts, you see chicken thighs, chicken legs, but you don't see
see no
chicken
chicken
nuggets
nuggets,
walking
yeah.
around.
Yep.
And so it's a real thing. I mean, no, man, marketing is slippery, man. Marketing is, you know, we all need it. It's all part of our daily life, especially doing what we do. It's just part of reality. But man, it's smoke and mirrors at times.
Yeah, for sure.
It can just, you know, lead you down the wrong path, and you got to be careful with that kind of thing, for sure.
So, is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
No,
that we kind of left
well,
out.
with the fasting thing, I'll just say this: I believe it's a spiritual thing. So if you, because physically, there's nothing in us that says no more, no mas. Like I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Like we always say more, more, more. You know, bigger is better. We're from Texas, baby, so it's like shoot, bigger is better.
Yeah.
I mean, go look at our high school football stadiums, man. I mean, this dude across the street builds one. 2 blocks down, they're building one too. They're not going to be outdone. You know, I get a truck with the lift kit and big tires. My man down the street's like, screw that. You know, I got
Yeah,
something
I
bigger.
got you. I got you.
I get me an AR. This dude's like, oh yeah, well I got one with it. You know, it's just, it doesn't matter, man. Bigger is always better. So when it comes to fasting, you know that's a real spiritual battle because now you're saying, you know what, I'm pushing this stuff away. So if you're wanting to do this, or you're wanting to, you're feeling called, or you feel led to do something, it is, as you said, going into Ash Wednesday. So going into that, hey, look, man, whatever you do, don't I would say don't play with it and make it the cheap thing. Oh, I'm going to give up wearing heavy coats. Well, dude,
Oh, yeah,
you know,
come
you don't
on,
wear
yeah.
heavy coats. Like don't play with it, but like really give some thought to it. Really be sincere. Make a list. Write down 2 or 3 things that, you know, maybe that really matter to you. Ask yourself why they matter to you. You know, like if you really enjoy, you know, we were joking about cigars and bourbons and, you know, if you enjoy certain things, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with enjoying life, but ask yourself why they matter to you and what would it feel like if you couldn't do those for 40 days. And if it really makes you feel some kind of way, then maybe you explore that a little bit and say, you know what, I am gonna fast from that because I want to see if it unlocks something spiritually and physically in me.
Test yourself.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, human beings, we're made for challenges and tests and opposition. And when we live in 2024 like we do, like I said, I can call up darn near 95% of anything I can think of right now and pull it from this iPad and it'd be here in 40 minutes,
Yeah, for
man.
sure.
And so
Yeah.
when you live in a world that just never says no, you telling yourself no, man, is definitely going to unlock something spiritually. And it may be the thing that moves you to level 10 that you've been waiting for. It may be that diagnosis. It may be the answer to your marriage problems. It may be the answer to your financial problems, your health problems, your kids. You know, there's a lot of grandmothers that prayed for me, man, and got me to where I'm at. A lot of aunts that prayed for me. You know what I'm saying? So I know that stuff works. You know
No,
what I
for
mean?
sure,
I wouldn't
for
be
sure.
here if it wasn't for those folks.
Yeah, and no doubt. And so when you said that you prayed and didn't sleep, when you were praying, is that when you heard like the loud thunderous thoughts?
No, man. So that's the thing. Like it was almost like I was delusional. Like, you know, I'm sitting there and I'm like, hey, I'm asking for this. It felt boring. There was the ground wasn't shaking. My bed didn't move.
Yeah.
No angel came and visited me. I didn't have a dream. I mean, I was not sleeping, but it wasn't like I
No
had this
cinematic
Yeah, there was
scene.
there was
Yeah.
none of this crap happening. I was just like, are you listening? Like, I really need you to move here. And I would walk around the house and, you know, walk in the garage. I'd walk back inside and things that make me stay up because I was like, I'm serious about this. I need to talk to you. You know, I need you to hear what I'm saying. Like, I need you to move in a way that I've never seen before. So I'm doing something that I've never done before. So I'm asking you to do something that I've never seen you do. I know you have the power to do. You're God Almighty. You don't bastardize your kids. But I'm also going to do something as a kid that I've never done, seeking a response from the Heavenly Father. So it was kind of this, you know, and that's what the scriptures teach, man. If you take a step toward Him, He'll take a step toward you. It's like, I heard a pastor say this the other day. It was really moving. And it was shout out to Pastor Jeff McCright at Rock City. He's the one that actually said this. He said, like, you can imagine a king sitting on a throne and you bust into the big courtroom of the king and you take 2 steps toward him and he sees you and then he gets up and takes a step toward you. And so it's like, that's a different type of relationship. We know how that is. You know, we come in, we may not know each other. After 2 or 3 times of hanging out, we're like, hey, man, I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, come in here. You know, there's a dad, there's a hug. And so there's a different type of atmosphere. I believe that's what fasting does. When you pray and you fast and you say, you know what, I'm making this step toward you man, will you just meet me halfway? Will you throw me a bone? And God does not bastardize his kids, man. He's not like us. He doesn't go out to get milk and not come
he
back.
throws you a bone.
And he throws us a bone, man, literally, dude. And that really happened to me. And so I knew that. I had that history. So I needed him to respond again. I said, man, I've gotten myself in a mess. I don't know how. Some of this was not my doing. I don't know how to get out of this. I need a response that we're on a time clock here. Like I got 3 days or else things are going to get really out of control. And everything that I think I've been building is going to be blown up unless you intervene. And when the king intervenes, man, it's like when your dad shows up. It just changes the game. You know what I mean? Like if you ever had a situation, some guys may not have had a healthy relationship with their father, so maybe they don't understand this. But if you had an uncle or a mentor or somebody that, you know, you knew you could count on that guy, like he has the right answer. If it's car problems, you know, a hose is out, you don't know how to get it back on, or, you know, there's some nuts in there that you're like, I don't know if I can get that off. You're like, man, but if my Theo gets over here, man, he's got the right tool. He'll put that thing's popping right off.
I'll tell you what, man. My dad was Superman, and what I mean by that is like you just said. Once Dad shows up, things are right.
Yep, changes the game.
He changes the game, and he makes all my wrongs right.
Yep. So imagine that times 1,000, because God's like that. He's not confined to time. He's already seen you 10 years in the future. He already knew that was going to happen. And wasn't that the best experience when your dad would say, hey, watch out for this, or this is going to happen? You would ignore him. And then when it happened, he was like, yeah, I already got it for you here because I knew you. You're like,
You're like, yep.
You're like, man, that's why you're the dad. That's why you run the show. No, it's a thing, man. And fasting kind of, again, it doesn't get God to move. What it does is it puts us in a position that we can actually be walking into the bedroom of our dad saying, hey, can we talk for a second? I kind of messed this one up, or I need a response here. I'm in a situation I've never seen before. What can you tell me about this? Like, can you help me out with this? And that's what that fasting and prayer does. And for me in that situation, it was resolved. It didn't resolve like I thought it would, but it was resolved the right way that needed to be resolved. And so that's what that fasting does. So I'll just say that. I'll end the fasting with that. I know I kind of went too long on that, but
there is no too long.
It was one of those things where it's like, man, you start talking about these things and you realize, man, I really don't know what I'm talking about, but I can feel it, man. And let me tell you a story that exemplifies what I'm trying to say as far as like the X's and O's behind it. It's like, you know, I don't know how to score a touchdown in the NFL, the X's and O's and maybe the line and the linebackers and the safeties and, you know, this guy's in motion. But I know when the ball's in the end zone, I know that's a good thing. You know what I'm saying?
So we talked off air, and you said something that really, again, hit a home run with me. Is I always tell my wife and my son that gut instinct, that gut feeling, is God talking to you. And then when we were talking earlier, and you said, "Man, I felt it in my gut."
Yeah, man.
And I always tell my wife and my kid that, like, hey, man, if you feel it in your gut, that's God telling you something, man.
Yeah, and I don't know what the theological word for it is, you know, what pastors or priests or, you know, theologians would say it is. But I know that we have this soul, we're made in God's image, and there's this thing about a connection with the Heavenly Father that is made when a soul is sincere. Because he always knows your why. He knows your motive behind it. He knows when you're sincere or when you're just trying to make him dance like a genie in a bottle or something. He knows that. He knows the heart of the spirit by which you're doing your thing by. And there's something that's just this innate connection. It says he breathed the breath of life into us. You know, the scriptures say that. It says we're made in his image. And so it's kind of like there was some times where I knew I was messing up. And I was about to sneak out of the house, or I was about to do some things as a teenager. And my mom would wake up because she just knew.
Yeah.
You know, she was like, where are you going, fool? You're not, no, get it back in the house. You know, she just knew. And I think that's the kind of, that's a micro example of like what thunder is feeling in your gut is you're like, I think God wants me to do this. You know what I'm saying? And that's where the prayer and the fasting comes in. You're right about that.
So I'll tell you, I kind of changed my thought process because I've said it on my podcast several times, but any little inconvenience that I had in my life, I raised hell. I made a stink about it. I threw a pity party for it. And I thank my wife like none other because she put up with that. And it was a grown-ass man throwing a temper tantrum, basically.
So your wife's tough. I know your wife, man. She's made from that stuff we were talking about in the Bible, man, that, you know, you purify through the heat. Yeah, man, you're a blessed man. You know, when you got a partner like that says, let's get it on. I can handle that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And if it was me, vice versa, man, I don't know if I could have taken that because
We're guys,
it
man.
was years of that, man. But I tell you all that because I want to jump into the topic of speaking things into existence.
That's a good one,
And
man.
so I started like doing like positive affirmations. Like, every morning I was like telling myself, I changed my I want to or one day to I am, or I will, I am. And man, it changed my mentality like none other.
Right.
Like it made me think that whatever is for me, I can achieve by just of course doing the work, but
Right.
also believing that that it's for me.
Yeah. Now there's something there, man. I used to be a guy that thought that was foo-foo, like new age stuff, and I would give some crap to it. And guys that would say, tell your things positive things, or because I grew up in a negative environment. I grew up, in a situation that wasn't the best, right? And so when I started thinking about this topic, because this is a topic that sometimes I go back and forth. I've made peace with it now, but I always check these philosophies or these ideologies against the scriptures. Like, have I seen this somewhere before? Is there a story about this? Have I experienced this in my life? Is this true, or is it just some dude like giving me a chill up my back because he can say it very grammatically correct and invoke these emotions on me and the music's playing or whatever? Like, is this legit or not? And so when I started thinking about this, I do this segment, for the beginning of my show called the Proverb of the Day. And there's actually a proverb, Proverbs 18:21, and it says this: life and death are in the power of the tongue. And so that by itself it's like a principle. You know what I mean? Like, you have the ability to speak life or death from your mouth, and it says choose life. Be careful what you say. Watch your mouth.
No, yeah,
because and I think the thing that I didn't realize growing up, and even as a young adult, and even as an older adult now, man, that I can default setting back to, man, you always do this. Or, man, you always F this stuff up, or you always, man, this is just the kind of shit you do, And so, or you shoot yourself in the foot, this is poverty mindset, and you got to be careful saying those things over yourself because you are listening. And so you can test that by speaking things that grow, things that produce life like you were doing. And I'm telling you, man, that's a real thing. And so as I started to watch myself, even speak to my son, I was negative with my son early on. Hey, we don't do this. I was very strict. And midway through, I guess this kind of sunk in, and I started to change the way I spoke to him. And I started to speak to him like I wanted him to be, like a generational curse breaker. Same thing with my daughter. And they started to be that. It was really crazy, man. And so again, I'm all for this thing, man. I don't want to say that it's like a wish list. Like, again, God is not a genie in a bottle that you can manipulate and say, hey, I want $1 million. I want $1 million, and just say that over and over. Pardon me. But
you've got to do the work too.
No, there's stewardship involved.
Yeah, for sure.
I think of like Elon Musk. I think of guys like Donald Trump. I think of these guys that are like, man, I even hate to say this guy's name, but even like Bill Gates to a degree, there's some of these guys that are just at the top of their game financially. They're just the most wealthiest, most powerful, influential people in the world, and they just didn't give a damn about anybody else. They wouldn't allow that voice to be anything other than, I can do this. I don't have to do it your way. I can do it this way. Now, some of those guys have used their power for good and power for bad, just like villains in a comic book or whatever. And I think we have something similar. I always go to, again, the scriptures, and I look at, like, what did Jesus say? How did he talk? How did he walk? And he's always saying, I pray only what my Father wants me to pray. Well, when you go to the scriptures and you think, well, what did God say about us? Well, he's always saying positive things. I created you in my image. He's always talking about the speaking life type things into us, for lack of better words. And I think we're supposed to mimic that. When you go to the creation, the very beginning of creation, Genesis, he spoke all that stuff into existence. And then he said it was good. And then when he made man, he said it was very good. And so we're supposed to be creating, we're supposed to be developing, we're supposed to be engineering things. That's kind of what he created us to do, is to be little mini versions of himself. And I don't want to get it twisted theologically, because I don't want people emailing you and saying, oh, that dude's a heretic, he's saying it wrong.
No, man.
And again, I'm not a theologian. I'm just telling you, when I juxtapose these ideas versus what I've seen in my personal life, what I've seen in the scriptures, and there's something to this speaking thing into existence. I can't put a finger on it and say I know exactly what it is, other than when I go to the scriptures, there's a principle set of speaking life versus speaking death over people. There's also a difference between being delusional. You know, like I'm not gonna hit 6'4". If I grew up every day and start saying, "You will be 6'4", you will be 6'4", you're gonna be a first round draft pick in the league.
Yeah,
You're gonna be
yeah.
220. You know what I'm saying? Like there's some DNA and there's some physical limitations there. But what we have seen is guys like Wes Welker, Amendola, Julian Edelman. We've seen these little cats get in the league, and clearly they had an idea and a mindset in their mind that was always life-giving, and I can do that. I can beat the odds here. We've seen that with people all the way around. So there's something to this. I just can't quite put my finger on it, but it's more powerful than what we give it credit
It
to.
really is, and it also works vice versa because you can always you'll always be not always, but you can tell the negative person in the crowd. You know, the person that's like, well, I want to do this, but I'm not smart enough for this, or you know, this, like you just said, this something bad always happens, or this always happens. Well, basically, you're just speaking that into existence for yourself, and you're continuing to speak that into your lifestyle and your being, because you're in that negative mindset, so you stay there.
No, I'm picking up what you're putting down. I'm going to give you a funny example. This is totally a joke, but it's in the same spirit of what we're talking about, because I know you like to have fun on this podcast.
Yeah.
I've been saying for 2 years, because I've been living out in Woodford for almost 4 years, that we need a wing stop in Woodford. And I just got a text message while I'm doing this, and someone says, "Hey, man, they're now hiring. They're opening up a wing stop in Woodford." So shout out to Wingstop. I was hoping I was gonna get one of those during the show today, man. I was like picking my moment when I was gonna get me one. Yeah, so I was like, "Yo, man, I'm sick of eating Buffalo Wild Wings. They're the only ones here. They're always busy, because you know out in Woodford we don't have a whole lot. But there you go, man."
So
but
let me ask you real quick: drums or flats, or you don't care?
I do both, man.
Yeah,
I'm
there you
I'm
go.
all in, man. I don't
Yeah.
play around, dude. Listen,
It kind of irks me when I hear people like drums or flats.
No,
I'm like,
man.
man, bring me whatever.
I'm like, just fill the basket up. Make sure there's plenty of salt on that bad boy. I'm gonna fast anyway, so you know I'll clean it out later.
I'll even go to Hooters and eat the little mustarded little,
The special one, bro.
the little mustarded.
Hey, man, they need love too.
Yeah, man.
They need love too.
So what's your favorites? Is it dry rub or is it?
So I'm a little bit weird because I do try to do some healthy stuff, and my kids clown me for this. I get clowned for this one. I'll just get original extra crispy with no sauce, and I wait for them to bring back 4 times a year the spicy honey barbecue sauce that they have. It's like their mixture of their atomic hot sauce and their spicy, their honey. Dude, but they only do it like 4 times a year.
I don't mess with that at all.
No, I love it,
No,
man. It's
that's
like
too
super
hot.
sweet, and it'll punch you right in the throat.
Yeah, it's a immediate punch.
I love it, man. And so again, I can only do it like 4 times a year, man. So I'm that dude. So I try to do things. I drink black coffee. You know, I've trained myself to like certain things because I know I do so much of the tortillas, and I try to balance it, man. And so other than just going on a straight fast, but you know, you're talking about the speaking things into existence, and I was being a fool with that one
No,
because I've been.
yeah.
I literally just got that text.
Believe me,
It was
I enjoy that.
It was a family text message where they're saying they're now hiring. I might get an application when I leave here. So you know what? I'm not only gonna shop here, I'm gonna work here too. No, and so they sent me that. But no, you're talking about the speaking things into existence, man. You know, we focus so much on making fun of the positive and the woo woo, as I call it, the tree huggers, the guys that wear, you know, no shoes and their feet got to touch.
yeah.
You know, again, hey man, if you're into that, I'm not clowning you. I get it. There's probably more truth to what you're saying than what I'm giving credit to. But what I do know is it works the opposite way as well. Mm-hmm. Because before every football game back in the day, every basketball game, I would listen to a certain style of music, like gangster rap, and it would put me in a killer mindset. It would put me in a sniper mindset. Mm-hmm. So there's something about the spoken word that can change your whole demeanor, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, someone comes up to you and they go, "Man, I really appreciate your podcast, man. I see what you're doing." And you're like, "Man, thanks, man." Or someone comes up and goes, "Dude, this is the worst fucking podcast I've ever heard in my life. You suck. You should quit." You know, you leave that situation differently. You just do.
Oh yeah,
you know what I
for
mean?
sure. And you think about
it gets you, man. Mm-hmm. And this is what created Michael Jordan. This is what created Kobe Bryant. It was that inner voice. So there's more power in our words than we could ever realize. And I know growing up in the situation I grew up in the environment I grew up in, I bumped that DMX. I bumped that
Oh,
style
for
of music.
sure, yeah.
And I just would walk around wishing somebody would. I FCC regulated myself
Yeah.
on that. But I would just walk around going, I wish
Just
you would,
someone,
man.
Someone please mess around.
I'm
and
barking at
find
people
out.
as they
Yeah.
walk by for no, or just for no reason. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? No, that so it changed. I mean, the spoken word has power, man. There is life and death in the power of the tongue, man. And so I would say if you're listening to this segment of the podcast and you're like, I don't know, these guys got a little wizardry on me. Man, no, listen, just experiment, man. Think about what you listen to on a regular basis. I'll tell you something else. It's not coincidental that half the novellas that we watch on TV, the Grey's Anatomies, these shows, they're people sleeping around with people all the time, cheating on each other. And that's one of the number one causes of divorce, right? People stepping out, social media, it's everywhere. But I mean, is art imitating life or is art telling us what to do? I mean, it's a real question. Like we're seeing it, we're watching it, we're hearing it. You're going to reproduce that later. You know what I'm saying? It's just because you've conditioned yourself to do it. Whether it be, and again, music does this. I used to box a little bit, did Golden Gloves at the Optimus Boys Club. Shout out to Joseph Resendez and those guys.
Shout out to Little Ed.
Yeah, shout out to you guys out there, man. I know a lot of guys still doing it. Man, I'd do their summer programs, and you put the biggest, baddest song on because you wanted to punch through a dude's head. You know what I'm saying? Like you wanted to punch through it. Like it wasn't just a body shot. Like
For sure.
I wanted his liver to come out on the other side. You know what I mean?
So I watch a podcast with David Goggins, and he was saying that to tap into your
I almost spit my
inner
liquor
beast
out.
mode, you should be training with nothing in your ears,
Yeah.
just your thoughts.
That's dangerous, man.
Yeah.
Because you know what he's telling you to do is to train fasting. And so one of the positive benefits of fasting, well, you know, that last segment we were talking about was that the voice of God and your inner voice even gets not your voice is inner God, but God's voice and your voice. So they're two separate voices. I don't want people to think I'm saying that you're a God. I'm not saying that at all. But there's the inner soulish voice. I'll say it that way.
Yeah.
The soulish voice gets more thunderous. So if you have nobody else telling you that you're a killer, you're a boss, you're this, you're that, and it's actually the truth of what's coming out of you, that hard work, David Goggins is not wrong on that, man.
Because
That
they
is-
asked him, what's your hype music? And he goes,
Yeah.
I've learned to train with
Oof.
no music.
That's dangerous, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes that man dangerous. I get that now because, and people say he's probably going to die early. I don't know, man. That dude might outlive everybody.
Yeah, he might. He just might.
There was that old cat, Burns. Oh, this is old school stuff, man. Back in our day, I don't even remember his first name. He had the glasses. He always smoked cigars. And he was an old white guy that played these angel roles like back in the day. Like, God, I can't believe I even brought it up. But his name was Burns, and they asked him about stop smoking, and he was like, you know, what do your doctors say? And he told someone in an interview one time, all my doctors are dead.
Yeah,
man.
outlived him.
Like,
Yeah,
those fools are dead. Like I'm still rolling, man.
He's on his third
Yeah.
doctor. Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, I think if you start training with the fasting spiritual mindset of like what David Goggins is bringing up, like, hey, man, I don't need a background track. I need to know that the dude between these ears, the soul that's in here that's beating this heart, yeah, we're good to go. That combination can't lose.
Yeah,
You know?
but to touch a little bit more is I really wanted to. I don't know, man. It's just there's a few people that I mean I'm not gonna call them out, but they're close people, they're close friends, close family that are just stuck in a negative mindset, and I try my best to get them to do like this positive thinking and just get their mind turned around into getting out of that mindset that they're in. And you know, it's like you said, they think it's like sorcery or like
Yeah.
some sort of wizardry. And
You know the hack to that, bro, is you speaking it over them. You mentioned this earlier, man. I'm so glad you did. Your Thea Janie and her going to battle spiritually for that friend of hers that had cancer. This is so amazing. Shout out to Jim Robinson. He's an old mentor and elder in the church that I grew up in. This dude understood, man, this dude has seen it all. My church that I grew up in was on 5th and Avenue U, yay, tech ghetto, before it became the high-rise fancy apartments. I mean, man, we saw some wild stuff out there. And we had a dude stabbed on the doorsteps and on the footsteps of our church, man. And Jim Robinson, this elder and usher and assistant pastor, was that dude. But he understood that all the kids that came to Sunday school, that we were riding that bus, all those kids, we came from single moms, poverty. Like as a matter of fact, now that I haven't thought about this ever until just right now doing this podcast with you. I'm gonna have to give that dude a phone call. Actually, he always spoke positive affirmations into me. I would never be into that dude's presence and not leave like I was 6'4", 220, first round draft pick out of Bama. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I always
yeah.
felt like I was that dude. And I never thought about that until just right now. Like it just came to my memory that Jim Robinson was a dude that spoke life into me. He chose to, he could have just did his own business. He had his own kids. He had his own wife. He had his own business. He could have just minded his own business and did his thing. But for whatever reason, he would walk up to all of us ghetto kids, us bus kids, and he would speak these words of affirmation and life into us. And man, I might even say that, man, maybe a good portion of my success, whatever measure it is, might be tied to this dude that, again, was speaking life into me. And I always tell people, I grew up single mother, 4 kids, but God placed an army of dudes in front of me, like dogs, man. Like, these guys that were accountants, these guys that were ushers, parking lot attendants. I know some of these guys like Josh Tooley. Shout out to Josh Tooley. There's some guys out there that do this stuff. They carry that legacy on. It matters if you're an usher, you help with the offering, a greeter at the church, or Boy Scout leader. I know they get a bad rap because some people have done some whack ass stuff, right, in those industries, and they need to be called out for that stuff. But man, there's some guys in there that do the stuff the right way. And I would say for those family members that you're thinking of, man, you don't have to be like weird about it.
No.
Because if you're like, your eyes look good today, they're like, man, get the hell out of here. What are you talking about? No, don't be weird about it, man.
Don't be the creepy guy.
Don't be that guy.
Yeah.
But just say, man, you know what? You know what I like about you? You always do this, man. I appreciate that. Just something small.
No, for sure.
And they're just like, you know what happens? You start to override the default voice in their head that speaks death over them. And they don't realize they're manifesting that, speaking that over themselves. Maybe they heard it from their own parents or own family members or whoever, teachers, somebody. So you start slowly dropping those nuggets in there, man.
And I say that too, man. I say that all the time, is like, to have someone to just speak life over you, to believe in you, and especially it be your parents, man, it does wonders for you, man.
Yep.
Like I heard
It's a big deal.
I saw a TikTok not too long ago with like Des Bryant, and maybe you seen it.
He caught that
somewhere.
ball, by the way.
And he was talking about that on the podcast.
I hate
but
the
he
Packers.
said something like, how can we expect our kids to have a great night when we're yelling at them before bed? And then how can we expect them to have a great day when you're yelling at them before you send them off to school and stuff like that?
That's real talk.
But I say that because I've been saying, like, to just have one person believe in you can change your whole way of thinking.
Oh yeah, man.
In a way.
And I'll say this because it is Valentine's Day, and this is the day of love. And I'll say, man, your spouses, you husbands and wives, you boyfriends and girlfriends, you really do hold the keys. I mean, the kids too, man. This is important for parents, but you really do hold the keys to emotions and tempers and success or failures by what you say and how you say it to your spouse. There's a proverb, and I don't have it off the memory, but because I do that proverb thing. And there's one translation that actually says that a man that finds a great wife and then a wife that honors her husband, she can turn him into a mighty army. Like just by her presence, her honor, her showing him love, kind of speaking positive things over him instead of saying, why don't you ever throw the trash like I tell you? Just pointing out a couple of good things. You transform his reputation and his inner being into a mighty army. That's crazy that you could do that with just a spoken word. She didn't give him a crown or a sword or a gun or an army, but just by saying something. And we also know through human history, many kingdoms have fallen because a wife or a queen led her husband or the king into a battle he shouldn't have been into. And you're like, man, the whole kingdom can. The Beatles. Thank you, Yoko.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, I'm just saying that, that's
yeah.
a thing, right? Like you got this situation where you're like, man, many groups have been split apart or they've been built up. You know what I'm saying? So I'm telling you, the speaking things into existence, positivity, without sounding too woo-woo and new age. I just know it's true. You know what I'm saying? And so you talked about, and we've all had this. We've got friends and families that, man, I call it a poverty mindset, but sometimes it's spiritually, where you're just used to hearing that voice on repeat. That same pastor that I grew up with told me this. Kids are like camcorders. They record everything they see from those young years of, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, all the way up until the age of accountability. And then they just hit play. They just play out what they've recorded,
What they
man.
know.
Yep, that's it. And so we have to override a lot of that. So if you got family members that are adults, they've got kids, man, you just start off by showing them love, man. You know, and you can do it in a cool way, not weird. You know.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, not in a creepy way.
Yeah.
Right?
yeah. Don't be on the Lubbock lineup or something strange.
No, for sure. But I say that because it's worked wonders for me, man. It really has changed my life for the better. And I mean, you talked about it, you know, off air. I really was honestly contemplating already calling it quits with the show, and it's not even 2 years old yet because I don't know, man. I just didn't want it to just be like a slap dick episode every episode. I
get
wanted
that, yeah.
it to have meaning,
Yeah.
and it was kind of hard to get people in here. And I'm not throwing any shame at my buddies. I love
I
them
get
to
it, yeah.
death. It's just I wanted it to, you know, every episode to have a little bit of meaning rather than
Yeah.
just some nostalgic stuff and us talking crap, you know, and making jokes.
well,
That's
sometimes-
all fun and games. That,
Yeah.
Believe me, I'll
You
be
need
for
that.
that.
You need that.
But I just didn't want that to be the show.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I tell you all that because I was really contemplating already calling it quits. It's already hard to get in here with my schedule
Yeah.
and find guests. But towards the end of the year of 23, there's just something in me that says, like, use this for your platform. And I'm already, like, in thoughts and in the process of trying to get a men's group together.
I like it, man.
Once a week, maybe start off once a month, twice a month, and then every week. But just a men's group together to basically show solidarity and show other men that we can go through shit and we can
Yeah.
build each other up and just create a safe space for anything that, you know, that a man needs. Starting off with like a prayer or something like that. And I've already took a poll and it looks like it's going to be on a weekday, maybe a Wednesday night or something. But for the most part, everybody's said, like, you know, weekdays, evenings work best.
Yeah.
So, I mean, slowly but surely I'm getting the process. And I think that's what I'm being called for right now
There
is
you go.
to
Man, I'm picking up what you're putting down, man, and I appreciate you inviting me here. You know, when you hit me up last week, man, I was like, heck yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
Because I've been watching what you guys are doing. You guys are building something special over here, and I've told this to my other buddies that work in radio and TV, and you know, there's supposed to be, I don't know what this unspoken rule is. There's supposed to be this stupid competition. Like everybody wants to be the best, and I can't be the best unless I tear you down or something.
No.
It's the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. Like there's enough bread to go around, man.
There is.
Everybody can eat. And so when I brought that to, you know, the I guess you could say big J journalists and mainstream media, when I brought it to that attitude, hey man, God put you in this field. You have a set of tools that he's equipped you for. Work that field, man. Don't try to be me. I won't try to be you. I'll do my thing over here. You do your thing over there. And then when we come together and collab, it's just going to be explosive. So I've been watching what you guys are doing over here.
Nice.
And I'm like, man, they're building a lineup. They're you know, getting their stuff together. Everyone's getting better. They're developing. There's a hunger there. I'm glad you guys aren't shutting it down and going to keep going, man.
Oh no,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, believe me, I've got a new hunger for this men's group, for this podcast, for the direction that I want to take it to. But to add to that, in my circle, it's safe to say that 100% we are all fans of each other.
Yeah.
So
No,
if
you can see it,
one
man.
of us wins, we all win.
Yeah, I love it.
Like there is no competition for anything with all of my best friends and
You telling me Eric and John aren't like Suge Knight?
No,
they're not
no,
like
the-
sign over your rights,
oh,
bro.
Death Row.
He's not like, hey man, that's a nice JP Lopez show you got there. Who owns the rights to that?
Yeah.
Hanging you over a balcony.
No, man, and it's definitely not. But it's just a new hunger that I've got and a new drive that I believe God is leading me towards.
I love it, man.
doing.
You know why, man? Because first of all, God has given you a certain set of gifts that only you can do. I can't pretend to be you. You can't pretend to be me. And there's a group of folks out there. You know, you called it slapdick comedy. man, there's a group of folks out there that only you can talk to the way you can talk to. If I try to bring it out, it's phony, it's fake, it's not real. They're not picking up what they're putting down. So I would beg you not to change, your delivery, how you do the thing. Just change the banner you're flying it under. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, I do all this. God gave me these gifts. He gave me this sense of humor. Let him. He's the one that holds the keys to heaven, not me, not anyone else. And so you just do the thing that God put on your heart. If you feel some kind of way, man, just step on the gas and roll with it.
Yeah,
man.
and that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I can feel it, man. And I appreciate you giving me an opportunity. I think this is great. And again, I'm a fan of what you guys are doing, man. So I've been watching. Y'all guys are getting better.
I appreciate you for being here, bro.
Man, this is fun.
do, man.
Anytime you need me, come on, man. I heard you say you had a couple of buddies that you can call last minute.
Oh, for sure,
man.
man.
I enjoy this. I only want to get better, and I enjoy what you guys are doing. So I'll break bread with you guys anytime. Not just because it's Valentine's Day, you lovers out there. Let's see. I think I covered everything that we talked about covering. I want to make sure I don't leave anything out, but because I know you brought some depth stuff to me, man. You hit me with those topics, and I was like, bro. I thought I was gonna come have a drink and relax, man. After a long day.
I thought you were a Slapdick podcast.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna get to cut up. I thought I was gonna be Cat Williams. You were gonna be, Uncle Shay Shay.
Yeah.
And I was just gonna say a bunch of weird stuff, and I was like, oh no, my man wants me to get deep. I'll pick up what he's putting down.
Yeah, for sure.
But I appreciate that. That's a great opportunity. Great studio.
You, man.
Great hospitality, man. So you guys are rocking it.
On that note, man, we'll take a real quick break and we'll come back.
Sounds good.
Okay. And we're back. So just to pivot off of the first half of the show,
Yeah,
we'll take a hard pivot. And you're the guy that I really wanted to along. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Donnie Flamingo show.
Well, I know he covers politics and spirituality, right?
So along with him,
I never met him, though.
I really would have loved to have him sit here and you sit here and let's talk about
that would have
this
been fun.
upcoming election, man. But I wanted to get
Maybe
your
you call
thoughts.
us back.
Yeah, we'll do
That'd
that.
be fun. I'm in for that. If Donnie's game, I'm game.
That would be an awesome show.
Yeah,
it
man.
It would definitely be canceled off YouTube. They wouldn't want any of that.
Well, I don't want you to get demonetized, man.
No, but I don't care
that's
about
the problem,
that,
man.
I really don't.
The FCC regulates me on my day job, right, on the airwaves, but YouTube, man, that monetization, they hold that dangling carrot, man.
They are pretty strict on everything.
They're like
man.
dance
I'm
puppets.
sick of it. Yeah,
It is what it
I've
is.
told Ramos I'm ready to move to video on Spotify, which it's
Well, they let Joe Rogan do his thing, right?
it's something we can do.
Yeah.
I know that. It's just I'm not too sure on how just yet.
We
but
might edit that part out since we're going to put this on YouTube.
eventually, I am gonna move to video somehow, some way on Spotify.
Yeah,
bro.
I got you, man. I like what you're doing. Like I said earlier, man. One of the other previous episodes I was listening to, you guys, y'all were doing the New Year episode, and you're like, the dick sucking fest has to stop.
Yeah. We're like, all right, man, that's enough. All right.
no, I love it, man, because you guys, the thing is, y'all put a lot of hours in. This is what people don't realize. And maybe they do realize it. Maybe they do. Maybe that's why they don't do it. And maybe that's why they love the show and they listen in because they know somebody somewhere is putting in some work.
Yeah.
And you're working a regular job. You've got a wife. You've got regular problems, regular bills. You're not, making it rain every day just for the sake of making it rain. So this is truly done out of passion, love,
For
and
sure.
grit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so,
That motherhood episode.
oh yeah, man.
We didn't leave the studio till 4 a.m.
Yeah, I was listening to a little bit of that. I love the artwork behind that too, by the way. I saw that and I was like, man, I respect that.
Yeah.
I got the message.
What I really wanted people to take from that is because I know my audience is mainly men.
Yeah.
And what I wanted them to take from that is like this, maybe the acknowledgement of the sacrifices that our own moms made for us.
I know, it's real talk, man.
Yeah.
It's real talk.
Because them ladies are awesome moms.
Yeah.
And for them to say that they think that they can do better, I think all moms think that way.
Yeah. Now that's a whole nother level
Yeah.
of animal. I'm not ready to dissect, man, but motherhood's a whole different thing. Even if you hit it from a biblical standpoint, a spiritual standpoint, a physical standpoint, what they do in their bodies biologically, how they take and train and develop young people. I wouldn't be sitting here, man, without my mother. Again, man.
for
So
sure.
no, it's a real thing, man. Jeez. So no, shout out to I like what you're doing, man. You're stretching yourself, man, making yourself do things. You're going Goggins on us. So
yeah.
I respect that, man.
And
Made me laugh.
I really love, shout out to all my loyal listeners. I really love all the feedback that you guys give me every week. It makes me feel amazing, man. And I say that because I told you I wanted to stretch my reach on everything. So that's what I'm trying to do this year is to I hate to reference Joe Rogan because I mean he's the king of the podcast and I'm just this little guy down here. But I mean he's kind of done the same where you can listen to like 4 episodes and he's all over the place.
Oh yeah, man. He's aliens. He's
Yeah.
weed. He's spirituality.
For sure.
And he'll punch you in the
Yeah.
throat.
And like you really listen to it thinking that you know some shit just because you heard his podcast. And that's kind of what I want to dip into, you know?
No, I'm
Yeah.
game. You know, and again, I respect that, man. And so I was excited to do it. I'm glad you called. And so, yeah, man, anytime you need it, you want to talk, man, I'm game for it. So
I'm serious.
Add me to the list, man.
That
I'm trying
you
to
and
get
Donnie
better.
together.
Yeah, I
that-
want to get better. These reps I need, and I appreciate the reps that you're getting in. So now it's all good, man.
For
and,
sure.
and I wanted to do something different. So if you catch my show, you know, again, it's pretty serious. I've got the FCC. We talk politics. We talk soulish things. I try to have some fun, but it's not like I can't have fun like you have fun. Again, I can't do fun like you. We're just two different people, man. So I appreciate the art and what you do, man. So it's all good. Yeah, I'm game. And so you wanted to know about my thoughts on. Well, you gave me 2 deep, man. I thought I was coming to have some fun and just going to have some whiskey and you're going to show me some fancy cigars and I was going to look at your Monitos up there and we were just going to have some fun.
Those are all Constancios, man.
No, I believe that. He's had those since I've known him, man.
Yeah.
This dude, he's still a toy collector. Stop playing with toys, Constantio. Be a man already. Grow up. You asked me about some things and I thought it was intriguing because the first question was before we got into the 2024 election was the state of our culture or the state of
country.
the country.
Yeah.
And man, this is deep, man. You know, I'm chewing on this and I'm thinking about it. I feel like I need a pipe and one of those little jackets because I got the little hat on or whatever. And so I'm sitting there, I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, man, we are in a situation that I'm 41 years old, and I'm not a big history buff, but I've never seen anything like what we're seeing right now, where the folks that we've trusted for so long, whether it be the government, the American Medical Association, our colleges, our school districts, our school boards, our politicians, they seem to be in concert working together like an orchestra to just throw a bunch of bullshit out at us, like stuff that just doesn't even make sense. You know what I mean? And shame on you for not co-signing on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
for sure, for
like
sure.
if I feel like I'm a girl, or if I feel like I'm trapped in a certain body, or I feel some kind of way, and you literally don't want to have my back on that or co-sign on it, then you're the problem. Instead of saying, no, Ken. And again, maybe I'll try this. I don't know. Hell, maybe I'll just maybe I'll indulge with the culture and the state of this country, and I'll just walk up. Maybe I'm going to drive to Dallas tonight, and I'm going to say, Jerry, I am your starting running back. You pay me $2.3 million a game. Zeke is nobody. You don't remember him. I'm the new guy. Pollard's out. I identify as a Dallas Cowboy. I wear the star, baby.
Yeah.
Respect me.
But you're so true because I don't ever recall any period of time, even in school, where if I disagreed with someone, then I was
Nice.
cut off.
Yeah, you're done.
You're
Yeah,
done.
canceled.
Like you're canceled. It's just crazy how
on this platform of free speech, man, where you get to do a podcast and you called it Slap Dick Comedy, that made me laugh so hard, man. When I was like, dude, I have never slapped my dick. I like, what does he mean by this? No, it was the funniest phrase, man. You said some great stuff. And shout out to your reference about the, when you were talking about your New Year's plans and them not treating you like the little brother that didn't have your controller plugged in.
Oh, yeah,
That was
yeah.
a great I am going to use that. I'm going to steal that and use it on my show. No, that's great, man. And I was like, no, this dude's developing, growing. This is a platform for freedom of speech. And dude, if you don't co-sign on certain things or if certain groups come after you, man, and you don't get in line, like, dude, that's just like, what are we talking about right now? Like, this is
Yeah.
America, right? Like, we're only doing this platform and podcasting and having fun and enjoying what we do in different, atmospheres because of the freedom of speech. And so it's weird in this country in 2024 that you've got to censor yourself or there's fear of being canceled. And for comedy, Dave Chappelle, for guys like that, even we mentioned Joe Rogan, for these guys that they make a living going against the grain, that's affecting their pocketbook, their ability to feed their family. It's like tying your hand behind your back and say, go do your job tomorrow. and if you don't do a good job, you're fired. And you're like, wait, you're not letting me use my full arsenal. You know what I'm saying? It's a weird thing.
So I'm a fan of podcasts, period. So I listen to a bunch of podcasts, and the Full Send podcast, they had Dana White on, and they were talking about. Actually, I'm lying to you. It was Theo Vaughn. Theo Vaughn's podcast had Dana White, and he said how
That is crazy.
how he had Robert Kennedy Jr. On the podcast, and Peloton told him to take it down,
Wow.
to remove that show, or he was gonna lose the sponsorship.
Yeah.
And so Dana White, he's telling Dana White that, and Dana White makes a phone call to somebody, and he's like, "Do we have any Pelotons in the gym?" They're like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Get them all out,
Yeah. Get rid
take
of them.
them out, get rid of them."
See, that's the only way you win this battle of the culture is by people not bending the knee to this ridiculousness, right? I always say bend the knee like it's a reference of like the old Crusader days of like, you know what? If you just worship me, if you just bow down, if you lay down your sword, you can ride with us. We've got your back. And that appears to be the mentality, and I hate to use the word bully because it's like it's such a word that's been hijacked. You know what I mean? It doesn't even mean what it means. And so it's like, wait a second, like you're being forced to contort yourself into something you're not, and play imagination and play pretend just to get by and live regular life. And it's like the emperor has no pants on, bro. Like no one's gonna talk about that. You're gonna let that shit ride.
Yeah.
But you have to co-sign and play pretend. And so in an industry that you're in, where you do this and it's love, fun, and you put a lot of sweat equity into this and a lot of sacrifice, and then to be demonetized or not even get the opportunity to become the next big whatever, because you're putting that work in, you're putting
I'm
those
not
reps
playing
in.
their ball.
Oh, it's crazy.
Their ball game.
And I don't want to get into selling the soul Illuminati stuff. No, man, if you work hard, you will have fruit. Those are the scriptures, right? The people that put the work in, you're going to produce some fruit. You put seed in the ground, something's going to grow. You guys are definitely do that, but then to have it snatched up from you because you won't play pretend because, you know, someone feels some kind of way, whether it be, you know, whatever gender confusion cause to overly religious causes to whatever, because that pendulum has swung both ways throughout human history. So that's the thing. We're not seeing anything new, right? So we're blaming the LGBT mafia, we're blaming the gender, and we're blaming, you know, some of these what we would call, you know, leftist or these, you know, weird Democrats or whatever you want to call them. But there was a time in human history where the pendulum swung the other way, where if you didn't bend the knee to the crown and you didn't worship a certain type of way, or you weren't a Catholic or you weren't a Protestant, they would be, I mean, you were, you know, beheaded, you were, you know, killed. You were excommunicated from. So we've seen this throughout human history that when human beings are in charge, extremism is never really good. I mean, it takes you from one extreme to the next. Being lukewarm is never good because anything goes. So you got to have some structure, some principle. And right now we're in a dangerous place where there's no structure, and the people that are fighting for power are on both sides of the spectrum, extreme. But I don't think we're asking the real question, which is what's best for human beings. Like what's best for that young lady? Is it to get testosterone pumped in her body? What's best for that young man? Is it to be shot up with estrogen, have these surgeries? No, we have testimony now. That's not a good thing. What's best for some of these other folks that are co-signing, and you can call them a cult. I mean, some of these cult-like activities, man, that's not good. So we're in a place right now where you mentioned it earlier, true debate, true conversation, true disagreement is met with cancellation, and it's like you're an extremist. It's really odd right now.
Yeah, and that's something that I just don't understand is like, how can you go to Thanksgiving and you know your crazy uncle as a kid is gonna have different views from the entire family, but they don't shun him from the family. It's just your crazy uncle.
Yeah, you just rock with it.
But now it's like, oh, don't talk to your uncle, cut him out of the family, and it's so weird to me.
I've been Uncle Buzzkill for so long that it's all good, man. Shout out to my family, man. Yeah. I've been Uncle Buzzkill for so long. No, it's a thing, man, and it's a dangerous place to be where you can't have comedy. You can't have free thinking. And, you know, again, Dave Chappelle and some of these guys, I don't believe they're conservatives in the true sense of like conservative extremism. They're more into the idea of like, hey, man, you're not letting me feed my family. You're not letting me practice my craft, my art, what I'm good at, and what I enjoy doing, because I've got to, you know, play pretend. And I don't know if I've seen anyone do it better than Dave Chappelle on talking of politics in a story format with
Oh, yeah,
comedy.
yeah.
He's brilliant, man. And so Cat Williams, some of those guys, they're brilliant. There's that new young Mexican dude with the bowl haircut. Man, I knew I was
Barboza?
gonna. Yeah, that dude's
Yeah.
super funny, man.
You like him?
I do.
Yeah, I like him on podcasts, but his stand-up is still hit or
No,
miss.
he's
for
still
me.
growing. He's
Yeah,
developing.
yeah.
And part of it is we grew up on George Lopez. We grew up on some of these other cats that, they kind of paved the way. And then, as we grew up, we go, I don't really like that dude. He kind of.
Well, and you talk about being called an Uncle Tom, man.
Yeah,
George
man.
Lopez kind of sold out to me, man.
Dude, when George Lopez lost me, it was the wife and the kidney thing.
Oh, really?
That's some cold-blooded
Yeah,
stuff,
that's
bro.
real cold-blooded, yeah.
I've been around, man, listen, I grew up in a rough neighborhood. I got uncles that are real pimps, like in the real game.
Yeah.
And I'm talking uncles that are like,
Bishop Magic Don
no,
Juan.
man, I'm talking like uncles that are like, nephew, come let me talk to you for a minute, and like, the perms and stuff, man.
That shopped at Don Juan's
No,
fashion.
like real, I'm talking real talk, man. Like,
No, I get it.
and
Yeah.
that George Lopez thing was cold. Like, I don't know if I got an uncle that would take a kidney and be like, you're out, girl.
I'm out.
I mean,
See ya.
you're still
Thank
my
you.
number one girl. I'm still gonna treat you good. Daddy's still gonna take care of you. But George Lopez, man, he lost me on that one. That was my line right there.
Yeah.
That was like, bro,
Yeah.
she gives you life, bro. You gotta peel her off some bills and stay with her, man. I don't know. You gotta figure it out. I mean, if the Clintons can stay together after all this time, Lopez, you can't stay with your girl after she gives you a kidney, bro. Come on, man. I mean, Hillary's helped Bill bury bodies. I'm definitely getting you demonetized tonight.
Well, I believe that, man. I really do, because I have at least 70 friends that committed suicide. Doesn't everybody?
Yeah, I thought we
Isn't
all
that
did,
coincidence?
man. They
Like-
just shot in the back of the head, committed suicide. You're definitely. I'm sorry, man.
No, I'm picking up everything you're putting down, man. And believe me,
we're gonna
I
come have
have
some
no
fun.
fear of taking this any direction that we want to go to. But it's crazy. I don't get what the end goal is, and maybe it's something that we just can't even fathom. That it's just
Well, So I'll say this, because of my religious beliefs, because of my spirituality and the Christian faith, so when I look at all of these weird things that are happening that don't make sense to me, again, I said this earlier, I always go to the scripture and go, is there any rhyme or reason for this? Like, and this is kind of funny. This is a reference you might like. It's like Back to the Future, when he kept going to that almanac and he was changing the course of the future because he was like, oh, I'm going to play these numbers. I'm going to bet this horse. I'm going to do this. To me, the word of God's like that. Like, it literally changes the course of the future for your life. Now, what's going to happen is going to happen. It's God's will. It's God's word. He knows the beginning from the end. It's already a done deal. You've got 66 books in there. It's a library of books, but it tells you what the next move is going to be. Like, it's telling you the play on the book, right? So I go there and I look at that and I read the scripture and I go, why is our border such a big deal? Why is there this gender confusion? Why are we moving toward what appears to be lunacy in a one world government? Oh, wait, there at some point in human history, there's supposed to be this Antichrist figure. At some point, there's supposed to be a one world government. If America is the boss that we've been all these years, punking all these other nations, we're the youngest nation on the block, by the way, and we're doing all of this in 250 plus years so quickly. We have to be out of the way at some point. Like, we can't be calling the shots unless we're going to be a part of that global system, right? So there's this push-pull that we've seen with the last administration with Donald Trump, taking us out of global government and just saying, you know what, America first. Well, the globalists freaked out. They were like, yo, man, that's Hitler talk. You're a nationalist. Hitler was a nationalist. You're talking crazy, man. We're all one human race, kumbaya. Not understanding that mentality is pushing us toward a one world government.
Yeah.
And it's in the almanac. It's in the Back to the Future book, right? So I look at that and I go, have I seen this somewhere before? You know what? I have. I can't freak out about it. This is where this thing's going, but it changes my course and my family. Like, when you go to watch those movies, now the dude that was the waiter is now the mayor or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Biff is now this other cat. His dad's married. It's like it's changing the course of history, right? Well, that's what you do for your family, your kids, and your lineage. You change the course of history spiritually for them because they know what's going to happen. But what's happening around you is what's happening around you. And so when I go back to that, I look and go, okay, the state of this country, it's in a real battle. And it's going to lead us into this election talk. We have a choice to make. This is the one beautiful thing about God. He's not a dictator. He doesn't force us to do anything. You really do have free will. You really can decide. That was the thing that made us not androids and robots or like the angels. We were his creation. He wanted real relationship with us where he didn't have to force us to do things. And when you go into that and you look at how that's laid out, you really do have a choice. You can be a part of it or you don't have to be. But these things around us are going to happen. And so you can change the course of history and your kids' lives and your life and the souls and all that good stuff by reading the scriptures and kind of pinpointing and going, have I seen this somewhere before? So now I've looked at the culture and I've said, man, we're in a weird place. But we've had the proverb earlier about speaking things into existence. We had the ability to choose life or choose death based on the things that we chose, right? So we had 4 years of Donald Trump. There was a pretty good economy. We weren't being pushed around. People weren't, taking over other nations. We weren't sending money to Ukraine. The border wasn't out of control. The border's the border, man. I know dudes that have been coming through the border since I was a kid. So
for sure.
The border's the border.
Yeah.
That's not a new issue, man. You know what I'm saying? And so, but we've never seen it like this before. So we've never seen cancel culture like this. We've never seen people being, man, I've never seen a president be strung up on 70 plus charges and having to spend his cash to get, just to get a fair shake on the election. So I'm looking at all of that and I say, well, what is that leading us toward? Well, the scriptures say a one world government at some point will happen. And at some point we're looking at, an Antichrist figure, somebody that's going to rule over that thing. So when I look at the culture, it's right on time. I mean, again, I'm not a fear monger. I'm not anybody that freak you out. It's just I believe these things are going to happen. And I think the evidence is stacking toward that culturally. So then that moves into election because God is, again, he doesn't bastardize his kids. He gives us free will. In America, we get the option to choose. You know what I'm saying? And we can choose if we want to be a part of that. And according to scripture, and I won't get too deep into Bible prophecy, and those are good shows to do. I would love to talk to Flamingo because those are good shows because you talk about, what are these nations? What does this look like? Bible prophecy, the end time, the end of the world, Terminator type stuff. What are we talking about here? And so you look at these kind of things as they're happening, and we have a choice to be a part of it or not be a part of it. And according to scripture, there's going to be a couple of nations that won't bend the knee to the Antichrist. And I'm hoping and praying that America's one of those. We know Jordan is one because they're mentioned in the Bible. Israel's one because you don't invade a country that you already have control over. But what's intriguing, and I'll leave your audience with this part before we move on to the election stuff. The Bible talks about metaphors and symbolism. And so back in the book of Daniel, which I don't read very often, I'm not one of those guys that spends a whole lot of time reading Old Testament stuff, but I read it because it's part of it. But back in the book of Daniel, it talks about the end time before the return of Jesus Christ. And I know we're getting really deep right now, and getting really churchy, but it talks about this end time stuff. But it says specifically that certain animals or beasts, they are going to be the nations that are on the earth during that end time. Well, back then, the bear didn't make any sense. But when you talk about the bear now, that's Russia. Like that's actually their national symbol. Mm-hmm. And there's pictures of Putin with bears, with his shirt off, and he's riding a bear. Man. And so you go, wait a second. Now, there's also part of the scripture that says the bear doesn't want to go to war. It doesn't want to be involved in Armageddon, but I'm going to put hooks in that bear's mouth and I'm going to drag him down there. Well, you look at what's happening right now. Putin doesn't want to be in this war with Ukraine. He doesn't want to do these things. He just wants to protect his border and make sure there's some space between him and us and him and his enemies. And so Ukraine is there and he wants that space. He doesn't want us putting, stuff there that we could just kind of launch some nukes over to him. So we're putting those hooks in his mouth. It's really creepy. It's cryptic. Mm-hmm. You're like, wait a second. So when you understand symbolism, the lion is mentioned. Well, Great Britain, England, that's their sign is the lion. So you start going through these different things. Well, the eagle's mentioned. That's America. So we've got some.
But it's divide and conquer to me, because you're saying this about Putin, but if I go solely based on the news, I should hate you for saying that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because
what I just said got us canceled,
highly
demonetized.
of Putin, and he's a bad guy. And
no, it's crazy talk. It's the first thing I thought of when I thought of Trump. When he would talk positive about Putin, I said, "What is wrong with this fool? Does he know who Putin is?"
Yeah.
I mean, KGB, baby. Like people disappear over there. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, I believed it when Trump first got elected. I hated him because that's all the news told me is to hate him. Yep. And then when I started to see all the good that he was doing, I was like, why do we hate this man? This man.
You're in an advantage now because you're part of the media, whether you're like it or not. You're part of the. So when we talk bad about the media, we're in the industry now, and so we are privy to things that sometimes our listeners don't get the opportunity to hear or read or see come across their desk because we're constantly researching as part of what we do. Sometimes we get press releases, we get certain things that happen. And when you peek behind the curtain, it's like the Wizard of Oz. You're like, oh crap, all this stuff is just smoke and mirrors. The narrative they're pushing is not actually, and I would just say this, 90% of the media that we get, mainstream media, big J journalists, the big four, the big three, they're all feeding us garbage. You've got to, there's a couple of news sources out there. Just the news is pretty good right now. They'll probably be bought out pretty soon because they just give you the news. They're just the news. That's actually the name of their website, just the news. Anything else always has an agenda to it. Now, right now, they're pretty good, but they might, get sold out.
Eventually they'll jump the shark.
I mean, hell, if next week, I come in and you guys got a different studio and, you're like, hey, don't talk about this. And there's a commercial playing,
It's like, little Chris got you too.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, man. Like, JP, if there's this segment's brought to you by Pfizer.
I thought you were holding out, man.
Yeah, no, man.
Speaking of Pfizer, we got the Super Bowl.
Now let's talk about it, man. I'm game.
Yeah, man. By the time this airs, the Super Bowl outcome has already been decided and aired. But, I mean, it's just so blatantly obvious to me that I got this stupid cough that I've had for like 2 weeks. I can't get rid of.
They're trying to kill you, man.
So,
No, I'm not tinfoil hat guy.
and I'm not a smoker. It's not a smoker's cough. But it's just so obvious to me that like this whole Taylor Swift thing is like a plant.
Oh yeah,
like an industry plant for something like.
Maybe
it might be the election. Maybe it might. I don't know.
It's possible, man.
It's for a bigger reason, and I don't know why.
It feels that way, right?
Yeah.
Without being too tinfoil hat guy. And again, this is going to air on Valentine's Day. So by the time this airs, and again, fellas, go get the chocolate covered strawberries.
Yeah.
Don't forget your ladies. Because you're going to wish you did tomorrow because they're going to post the pictures. It's going to be there, man. I'm telling you. But by the time this airs, we'll know who the Super Bowl winners are. I'm going to assume it's going to be the Chiefs. I could be wrong. I mean, 49ers might pull it out, but I'm assuming that it feels like something bigger is happening and pulling the strings of that puppet. You know what I mean? And I hope I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just being extra tinfoil hat guy. But no, you're right. The stuff that's being put in front of us, the concerts, the TV, the sports, it seems like, again, it's a concerted effort to either steer the culture into a certain temperature, like change the temperature of the culture, or pushing a narrative and agenda. And maybe it is just for the election. But that's a big animal. I'm not even sure Trump himself understood the giant that he was waking up when he talked about the swamp. Now, maybe he did because he was part of the elite group. Mm-hmm. Everybody loved him before he ran for president. Rappers rapped about him.
Can I tell you real quick my thoughts on that?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, man,
So,
I'm in.
all right. So I'm the guy that everyone loves to be around. I'm the guy that's filthy rich and like rappers make rap songs about, right?
Yeah.
So I'm the guy that's with all of Hollywood, all of the politicians. So I'm going to know a lot of your skeletons.
Yeah.
I am. But it doesn't matter because I'm a nobody. I mean, granted, I'm this billionaire, but I'm still a nobody. Who cares if he knows all my skeletons?
I got you.
Then I become like, fuck it, I'm gonna run for president. And you're like, oh shit, this dude knows all my dirt.
Everything.
Like, oh man, we got to get this dude out of here. And that's how I thought. That's how, outside looking in, that's how I saw it being played out. I mean, maybe I'm totally wrong, but that's how I thought it was. I
don't think you're totally wrong. I think if there's a globalist mindset, you definitely don't want him as president.
Yeah.
Because globalism, he's going to only take it's America first, and I know your secrets, and now I'm going to make you pay for it because you showed your hand to me, right?
Exactly.
And so if we're playing poker and you show me your cards, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to make you pay for this one. So there may be some, I don't think you're too off on that, globally speaking.
It's just, I don't understand how you are so liked and then you run for president and boom.
Yeah, it flips the switch,
like,
man.
Boom.
Yep.
I hate this dude. Like, he's bad news.
Yeah. No, I think you're onto something there. I don't think you're off too far at all. Because I think, again, they're driving us toward a global society, whether with the electric cars, with the grids, with the food, the global warming, all of these hot button issues, all these topics. These are all things that come under one umbrella of a one world government. Mm-hmm. And so, again, when I don't quite understand something, I always go to the scriptures. That's my default, is like, where have I seen this before? Is there a remedy for this? It's my almanac, Back to the Future thing that I used earlier. I go there, I check it out, and I say, okay, yeah, this is supposed to happen. So can I use this to either propagate more, for the kingdom? Can I do this to make sure my kids are going to be okay? Again, I'm not talking, and you may feel like that. I'm not talking about being a prepper and, having a basement full of stuff, although you might feel like you need to do that.
Yeah,
And if you
yeah.
do it, that's fine.
Because all the billionaires are doing it.
Yeah, so that's a real thing, man. So here's what's wild, and I should have pulled this up, and maybe I will at the end of the show, and maybe I'll send it to you. But there's scripture that talks about the mighty men of the earth. That when Jesus returns, they're gonna beg for the mountains to crush them and fall on them to save them from Jesus. And I think about these guys that are building these
Doomsday bunkers.
yeah, these bunkers that are palaces, and they're like wealthy, the top 10% type people, 1%ers, pardon me. And I'm like, that's scripture fulfilled right there. Like, they're already building the blocks of what that scripture says. So again, I go to the Bible like an almanac, like, man, what this is happening. Like, when the Zuck is doing this and building this bunker, the Obama's got these bunkers, and you go, why?
on, man.
Like, what
Yeah.
what do you know that we don't know?
Exactly.
And so
And that's what I think too. Is like, what do you guys know that we have?
yeah, we're
no
missing
clue?
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I'm telling you, so for me,
But it's coincidence.
yeah,
It's
and
pure
you're an
coincidence.
extremist.
Yeah.
You're a tinfoil hat guy. You're an extremist. You're a conspiracy theorist. You're reading more into the leaves that need to be. So, and I don't know. I've heard all this stuff my entire life. So there's that aspect of it. But I'm just saying things are converging culturally in the country that we've just never seen before. When I was growing up, and let's talk about this for a second, because you asked me the temperature in the room or the culture, the state of the nation, the country. I don't remember race being talked about a lot. I graduated high school in 2000. I was born in 1982. And I'm half black and half Mexican, right? And so I've got both cultures, man. Tripas, barbacoa, chicken fried steak,
Oh, yeah.
brisket, barbecue, the whole thing. I've got it all, man. I've got the culture embedded inside of me. I have never seen this type of hatred or these type of race wars. I've read about them from the Martin Luther King Jr. days of the 60s and the 50s. And in the 70s, it started to mellow out. The 80s, it was pretty mellowed out. That's when I was born. My parents were an interracial couple. You know what I'm saying? No one burned a cross in our front yard. You know what I mean? Not that I know of,
What do you say? Mid 90s to like 2015?
Yeah.
Hip hop was the soul driven culture that
Yeah.
everyone bit off of.
Oh,
Hell,
yeah.
Like,
There was references in movies to it. And again, I'm not saying racism didn't exist. It's always existed. There's always bias. Man, I've got Diaz and Theos that, the brown pride thing is deep.
For
I mean,
sure.
it's a real thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I've got on my black side of the family, man.
but what I say by that is like ESPN was like heavily like hip hop influenced.
Yeah, you're right.
Like you're right. Like I mean,
Allen
it
Iverson,
wasn't
Stephon Marbury.
like this race thing.
Yeah.
You're
No,
right.
everybody was welcome, and something happened, and again, this is President Obama, man. He put it out there. He said, "I want to fundamentally change the United States of America," and after his presidency, we started to focus on race like we've never had before, and I just feel like that was by design. Like it wasn't accidental or coincidental, and marking the date from his presidency on. It seemed like things got really worked up on race, on us fighting each other as American citizens versus us having each other's back. Where America, where the USA, there was no national pride. You started hearing verbiage like America's always been racist. It's been a bad nation. You started taking on a very European or a Eurocentric type of mentality, and so and it was taught throughout the schools. It's weird, man. It messed me up because it's like I woke up one day and was like, wait. We're not, I would hear my son or my daughter going to, a wealthier high school in this region, Wolford, right? And so you're going, dude, you grew up in the burbs, bro. Like, what are you talking about? Man, like I grew up in Tech Ghetto, man. And there was
You're
like,
not hood.
I was like, there was like, I was being pressed, man. Like, I was walking down alleys and there was like real stuff happening, man, and I'm like, dude, you grew up completely different. But he would talk about, the lingo or the verbiage that was used at school because that teacher doesn't like me because I'm black. I'm like, bro, you don't even look black. So what are you talking about? What are you talking about? But that's the verbiage that was starting to be brought out about 2015, 2016, 2014. It was really strange, man. So something happened and we missed it, and it was done smoke and mirrors, very slick, man. It was done very slick.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because that's right around where I think that we switched as a nation as it was just like a divide and conquer type.
It happened right under our noses, man. And so that changed that. And then you asked me about the election, right? And so we move into this 2024 election. Man, it's going to be a doozy, man. I have tried, I've even for my own show, I've tried to put together some ideas and thoughts 4 or 5 different times. And as soon as I do something, another X factor happens. Like this Nikki Haley thing. I did not see her popping up as number 2. Now she, at the time of this recording of this podcast, this is going to air on Valentine's Day. She might already drop out of the race by then, and so she might be gone. And it might be a unified, Republican Party. Donald Trump is the candidate for them. We don't know what's going to happen on the Democrat side. I personally believe that Joe Biden will not run for president or be. I don't think he'll be the nominee for the Democrat.
You think it's going to be Michelle Obama?
Man, you know what? She has been thrown up so much, and I'm intrigued by it. But I really think, well, let me just say this. I'm going to give you a political answer. You like this? I really think it's going to be Michelle Obama or Gavin Newsom from California. They have rewritten that dude's history. Like, it's unbelievable, man. They've really brought him out. And I think he's the darling. You know who I think they're the most disappointed in is Beto O'Rourke. Beto. Robert O'Rourke, the white boy that always pretends to be Mexican.
Yeah.
He's from Texas here. I think they really wanted to use him. He was the white Barack Obama.
I'm so glad Texas did not play.
No,
that.
man. I think they wanted that dude so bad. He just couldn't win anything.
When Hollywood was pushing for him, I just knew he was not the answer.
I think they wanted him, and he was their darling, and he was their plan B, no pun intended. He was their plan B, and it just didn't work because he couldn't win his own state. And I think they had to begrudgingly move to Gavin Newsom. And then I think they're sitting there and they're going, well, how the hell can we get Obama back in power with influence without it being so obvious? Like I think he's running right now. Personally, I think this is Obama's 3rd term. That's my opinion.
I agree.
I think he's the puppet master behind Joe Biden, but I believe there's a bigger puppet master, a globalist organization behind him. And I think they're trying to pull us into that. I think we're fighting that. I don't know if America will be a part of that one world global government system. Some Bible teachers think that we will, that we're not mentioned. Some believe that we are mentioned in the end time. So that's, again, the almanac makes me kind of go, that's interesting.
Do you think corporate America is running America?
I think it has in the past. I don't think it is any longer.
No.
I think in the 80s and 90s, commercialism, 70s, 80s, 90s, the Golden Arches, the Jordans, the Nikes.
But I say, like, I guess the word isn't corporate America, but you hear like BlackRock and you hear.
Oh, yeah, that's global, man.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
like,
a whole nother animal.
Yeah. I think that they are running.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Yeah, you talk about George Soros, you start getting into BlackRock, the Rockefellers. No, I think that's globalism. That's power at a global level. This is the World Economic Forum. These are some of these guys that they go to Davos and they, man, I look at some of the people that are part of their membership. It's an exclusive club. George Carlin, the comedian, used to say that, and we're not part of it.
No, for
You know
sure.
what I'm saying? Like, these cats, they do things at a level that we don't even understand. This is your Bill Gates, Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't know how he gets involved in that, or how this is a scrawny kid that did the Terminator movies, and somehow maybe we should look into his bloodline and see who his grandparents are, because maybe there's a connection there we're missing.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something to keeping a girlfriend under 25 for.
I'm telling you, bro, there's that dude. He's just an actor, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't own any, from what I understand, he's not a politician. He doesn't have any real influence in this world. Hasn't made a great movie since the Titanic, and was it that great? He just died. I mean, I don't know. There was room for him on that bedpost, and she pushed his ass into the ocean. And so,
At all the shit we talked about today, that's gonna get us canceled. It's saying Leonardo DiCaprio ain't shit.
you know what, man? We have done our job, man.
Yeah.
They're gonna let the Trump stuff slide. They're gonna let the Bible stuff slide.
Yeah.
But you're not talking about Leo, bro.
But I really think like Vanguard and BlackRock, I think that they are driving factors.
It's a whole nother animal, dude. I can't comprehend it.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the articles, I get the press releases, I do the stuff. I mean, I'm part of what you do, man. We do this, and it blows me away, man. And that's because I'm not privy to the information that like Joe Rogan's privy to, and the Blaze dude. I'm going blank all of a sudden. He just got sued for that Sandy Hook thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I went blank all of a sudden.
Nah,
I knew as soon as I mentioned him, I was gonna go blank. But all these cats, man, they're privy to real behind the scenes information. They're there in the belly of the beast. Ben Shapiro, some of these guys, and I get just a smidgen of what they get, and the part of the media that I'm part of. And I'm going, this is all smoke and mirrors, man. Like, they're definitely driving this bus over the cliff on purpose.
InfoWars, what's his name?
It's
killing me.
you'll wake up at about 4 a.m. and go,
Yeah.
yes.
But I totally agree. And like, I think you're probably right. It's probably going to be Newsom or Michelle Obama. But there's no way that Newsom won that re-election.
Do that.
There's just no way, man.
Well, he's tied to Nancy Pelosi, right? She's like his, I think his aunt, actually. And so there's a connection there that, man, I mean, you look at these things and none of these things should be happening. You know what I mean? And so I think they really believe that we're deplorables, like Hillary Clinton said. We're deplorables. We're rednecks. We're dumb. We're uneducated. We're the filth of the earth. We're the peasants. And they're going to do whatever they want, when they want, and how they want, and nothing we can do to stop them. And I think they're not counting on the ability of people unified, waking up all as one. Now, I love the way that sounds. By the way, I am all about, man. You know what? FTP. Back when
for sure.
when Lopez was the guy before he stole his wife's kidney and bailed.
Fuck that puto.
I'm all about the FTP, man. Let's do this. We're private citizens. We're free. But again, I go to the almanac, and the scriptures say there is a time coming where something cataclysmic will happen that all of us will, well, the majority of the people will bend the knee, man, and say, hey, we need a global leader to finally end this craziness. And so whether that be like a World War III, a nuclear war, whether it be, a pandemic, thing. So that's another thing that got my attention, right? So we talk about the pandemic. We talk about them forcing people to get vaccinations and closing down. Your job's essential, my job's not essential. We talk about all these kind of things and the forced mandates that happen. And then I go to the almanac, I go to the Bible, the 66 books. And I'm like, have I seen this somewhere before? And Jesus said, man, before I return the second time, so this is what's mind boggling to me when I go to the scriptures and I, put them up against the headline news stories or what we're seeing today. Jesus said the first thing he said was, make sure no man deceives you. You know how hard it is to do that now with AI technology, with CGI. I mean, you can take my voice from this thing right now and make me say
whatever.
Oh, whatever you want right now. I mean, you can do that right now, in real time.
Make their lips say.
Yep.
Follow along with it. Yep.
And so Jesus warns. So the disciples say, "Hey, when is all this stuff going to happen? When's going to be your return of this? Your second coming? What are you talking about?" And the first thing he says is, "Make sure no man deceives you," because he's like, "What I'm about to tell you is going to be hard." And he even says that if it was possible, even the elect, like even my top-notch believers, the guys that roll with me, my ride or die, they would be confused and they would believe this craziness. And so I think it's going to be aliens. I think there's going to be something that, and I just went full Joe Rogan all of a sudden, and we're not even smoking weed. No, I think it's going to be an alien type thing. They've been seeding our minds. I'm not sure.
That's going to unify us.
Yeah.
It definitely will.
Human race, right?
Yeah.
No borders. It won't be politics because me and you will never agree on everything politically, right?
Yeah.
We should close the border, open the border. You can cut your wang off. I can't cut my wang off. We can fight all that junk, right? I mean, who's going to dictate morality? Who gets to say what's good, what's bad? We're never going to be okay with that. But if there was a common threat, like we can put, like, if Putin's the bad guy with nukes, we can put him down. We got CIA, we got, SEAL Team 6. We got bad boys that can head over there, take care of that dude overnight. We're good. I mean, we've seen this play out. I'm not speaking of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But aliens.
How do you do that?
You don't mess
exactly.
with. You see what I'm saying?
But do you believe in aliens?
I don't believe them in the sense that they say.
Yeah.
See, I go to the almanac and I believe, my personal belief is that I believe they're demonic spirits. And I tell this to people all the time. We have to remember this. And you can go to the scriptures, man. I look for examples in the scriptures, and then I look at real life time. When you die, our spirit lives forever. The body doesn't. But if you're a fallen angel, a Nephilim, if you're a demon, whatever, an alien, whatever word you want to use. If you're one of these, one, you never had a body, physical body, and two, it doesn't die. When Jesus cast out demons, one time they said, "You're here to destroy us before our time." And he's, can we go into those pigs? And so for whatever reason, Jesus let them go into the pigs, right? They killed those pigs and those spirits live on. I always tell people to test things that you see by the nature or the spirit of that thing, right? So have we seen genocide before? Babies being murdered, and again, we can talk about Planned Parenthood, abortion. We can get into all that stuff. Yeah, throughout human history, there was a time where human beings would sacrifice newborn babies or virgins to some god of whatever and burn them up or sacrifice them. So that's a spirit that mirrors what we're seeing now. Have we seen any type of homosexuality or gender confusion type before in the scriptures? Yeah, we saw that in Sodom and Gomorrah. Those guys were so confused, so twisted, so perverted that God said, "Man, I gotta take care of that," because they were It was demonic type influence that was changing the human genome. We'll say it that way to use nerdy terms, right? And so that's what was happening there. When you look at all of that and you go to 2024, man, we've seen that before. There was times Jesus would say stuff like, "By which spirit are you living by?" He would call them out. So I think that what we're seeing again is just kind of a repeat cycle of things that we've already seen throughout human history. So that leads me to believe they're being influenced by demonic or spiritual beings. We call them aliens. They look like aliens, whatever. We may give them a certain name or thought, but it's no different than the god of the sun, the god of the dog, or the Egyptians worshiped, the Romans worshiped all these gods of fertility. So that's my opinion.
I totally believe in the firmament.
Yeah.
And I totally believe that we cannot leave this earth. That being said, I don't believe in an outer space or
that's intriguing,
all
right?
the other universes that apparently aliens are come from other planet. Whatever. I don't believe in any of that.
I've gone back and forth on that one. I've had a tough time with that one because I'm not sure. Again, I go to the scriptures and I go, okay, the heavens declare his handiwork. There's these things, these celestial beings. There's the top heaven, the middle heaven. There's these different layers that we're not privy to, the spiritual world. I think Stranger Things did a good job kind of talking about the upside down world. They did a good depiction of that. Sometimes I think Hollywood gets it right because they actually know some of the...
Well, they've got to tell you.
Yeah, man. So I've heard some of that, so I get it, man. No, man, I think that's a real thing. I'm not too far off from you on that one. I agree with you on some of this stuff, but I do believe that these are spiritual beings. They're influence human beings as they always have.
Yeah. I just don't understand how countries in this world can't agree on shit, but we can all agree on the Antarctic Treaty, right?
Yeah.
So what's beyond?
And it hasn't been broken.
What's beyond that wall?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think
you're right,
whatever
man.
you speak of aliens, I think they're from beyond that wall because the Earth is probably bigger, way bigger than we even know or could imagine. And that's where these so-called aliens are from. That's just my belief.
That's very intriguing, man, because, we have fought world wars, twice, and possibly a third one maybe already happening that we don't even really know about with this, Israel thing and Hamas and, it's a mess, man. Russia, Ukraine, we've got a mess going on. And it's possibility that we're already into that third one, and they still haven't messed with the
Antarctic Treaty.
Yeah, man. It's like that's the one sacred cow, right? And everything else has been on the table. Oil.
Never agreed on anything.
No, man. Oil's
Never.
been on the table. Green energy's been on the table. Pollution's been on the table. You know what I'm saying? We fought over food. We fought over water. We fought over many things. Dictator, socialism, freedom. Tea. You know what I'm saying? 1776, man, those cats threw tea in the water. You know what I'm saying?
I get it, yeah.
But that thing we have not touched, man. That makes me want to do some extra research on some of that. I like where you're going with that one.
I don't get it, and that's just my belief. And you can call me crazy, and you're.
No, I don't think you're far off on that one, man. There's something there. You know what was driving me crazy? I was grabbing my iPad because I wanted to pull I can see this fool's face, and I still can't get his name. Glenn Beck. There it is. We were talking about the Blaze earlier. Remember I said it was going to wake me up? No, man. You got guys like, Glenn Beck and they've been considered tinfoil hat kooky guys now. You might enter this realm because you've allowed me to come on your podcast now. You know what I mean?
No, believe me, I've had Downey on the show, so I mean, and the dude is awesome at his podcast because he does the research and he just presents the research that he's done, and it's up to you to decide whether you want to believe it or
I love
not,
that,
you know?
man. No, it's all in front of us, and you're absolutely right, man. So when I look at 2024, there's a small piece of me, and I don't know that I would say this. I mean, I'm going to say it to like thousands of people, right? But there's a small inkling in me that I wonder, will that 2024 election go off? Like, will we actually get it off? Will we go into a world war where, maybe we don't do the voting? Maybe we put it on pause or we put it on break. I don't know, man.
That's what I think.
It bothers me a little bit.
That's my thought. My thought
Yeah.
is something big is about to happen because everyone feels like we're waiting for some ball to drop.
Yeah.
Like something big, something is brewing, something big is about to happen. Everyone's got that feeling.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that this election is not going to happen.
I'll tell you another thing too, man. Going back to the scriptures, the almanac, right? The Back to the Future reference. It talks about this great deception. And if possible, even the very elect, God's believers would fall for it. And I just think, man, Project Bluebeam, you talk about clones, you talk about certain things, technology, AI. I just think that aliens, we talked about all this stuff. These are things that could make even the strongest of believers scratch their head.
Yeah,
like
sure.
if I step outside, I don't know if you read much about what happened in Miami, in that mall.
You believe that?
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
That's the one that messes with me.
It's just what on earth could have
The whole city, man.
entire city's police at that mall
I've been around gang fights, bro.
for one fight, one knife fight?
I don't know if I've seen that in Harlem. I don't know if I've seen that in the Bronx. I don't know if I've seen that in Chi-Town. I definitely didn't see it in Tech Ghetto, where and we've we've had some problems. We've had some Bloods and Crips. We've had some issues. We've had brothers get a little wild out there.
Yeah.
And I don't know that even a small community like Lubbock has ever unleashed its entire police force for one
Knife fight
Yeah, man.
in a mall.
I'm telling you, that's awkward.
Yeah.
You know?
And for your listeners that are still here, I encourage you to just Google Project Bluebeam.
We're doing a little
Yeah,
overtime
just
today.
Google Project Bluebeam
Yeah.
and see what you think, and maybe you have a better understanding of what we're talking about.
So
But
let's say I'm way off base. Let's say the liquor in my cup has got me. I'm way off base. My tinfoil hat's too tight. And we hit the election, 2024. Everything goes off without a hitch. It was shooting blanks, false alarm. Everything's golden. There's no world war. There's no alien invasion. I personally, I think right now, the way things are set up and people so frustrated, I think Trump wins in a landslide without any type of interference, without any type of national or global meltdown.
For sure.
I think people, whether they're black, Mexican, foreigners, I think they just want to be left alone. They want to, like we talked about earlier, just use the gifts that God has given you, the ability that you have to go out and make some money, provide for your family, do your thing. And I think Trump gives folks the best opportunity to do that with being left alone. And I think people are hip to that. And they're like, you know what, man, if this dude would get in power, secure the border, leave me the hell alone and let me just make money for my family, I'm game.
And that's why I think the election ain't going to happen.
Yeah, that's too much.
Because the ball is already it's rolling. It's in position to get us aligned to whatever their agenda is. Trump is going to win by a landslide, so they can't let that happen. So something's got to prevent that election
It's going
from
to have to be
happening.
big. And it's going to have to happen fast.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to mobilize a lot of people, and people are going to have to deal with shock. Now, the pandemic, COVID, was a really great test run if you're planning something like that. Because we were able to shut down the world in a matter of weeks. I'm talking Italy, Europe. I mean, you know what I'm saying? African countries.
But do you think that the pandemic was released to hounds? Because let's get this voter, Melvin vote, because he's fucking up this agenda.
Yeah.
Like,
Now, to me, my common sense says there's no way that the pandemic was put in place just to get Trump out of office unless Trump meant way more damage to the globalists than we could have ever imagined.
And I think that
It's possible, man. Like the believer in me.
It's like you said, we got to get this power player out the fucking way.
Yeah.
We got to get him out. And that's what I think happened. I
Yeah.
really do.
The believer in me wants to say there's no way this was a global conspiracy to get this dude out of office, that he was that dangerous. But then you watch the highlights of how he's like, grabbing Putin, pushing other leaders out of the way.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a wrecking ball, man. He was a problem. You know what I'm
The
saying?
dude went and met Kim Jong-un.
Yeah. Walked right over the line. No snipers came after him.
And what did they say? Oh, dude, we're for sure going to World War III if Trump is president. And
he broke every rule,
silenced
man.
all that shit.
Yeah, man. He was a real boss. I mean, you come from where I come from. There's certain cats that got street cred, corporate cred. I mean, there's very few that can do it all.
Yeah.
And that dude, he was commanding that kind of respect. And so maybe I was naive. Maybe I'm thinking there's no way he was that big of a threat to the entire world that they would put on a pandemic to shut it down. But you know what, man? You brought up some great arguments. You brought up some great points that it's very possible we only saw a shadow of what was really going on. And that dude was a real threat, and they would shut the whole world down to get him out of office.
I
That's
can't
true.
tell you how much of a Trump hater that I've known people to be. And now they're like, fuck, bring him back, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, even they are like, dude,
Nah,
bring him back. Like, I'm tired of this shit.
From what I've seen, nationwide, the black community, and I don't speak for all black folks, but from what I've seen is they're sick of it too, man. They just want to be left alone. They want to stack their paper. They want to do it in a way that's not grimy. They want to provide for their families, and they don't want to have to feel like they've sold their souls. And they're looking at their champion Biden, and they're like, man, this is the dude that Charlemagne the God told us that we needed to vote for. This dude went on his show, said, if we don't vote for him, we ain't
not
black.
black.
I mean, dude, can you imagine? And so I'm just saying, man, like, the scales have been lifted. Even Snoop Dogg the other day came out and said, I mess with Trump.
Yeah,
He's all right. You know what I mean? Now, Snoop has smoked a lot. So I'm just saying, It says something when a big player like that, Dave Chappelle, these are guys that are like, he's
Ken,
all right.
I really, really hate to cut you off, man, but we are pushing
It's
the
game
2 hour
time.
mark.
It's game
man.
time, baby. We got to shut it
But
down.
I really want to open this floor up for you to promote anything and everything that you got going, man.
Well, man, I really appreciate you, JP, letting me be here on your show. This is cool, man. I've been wanting to come in and hang with you guys and what you guys are growing with the media, generic media, and the JP Lopez show and all your crew. So I appreciate that because I appreciate, again, the field that you guys are working. We're in different fields, man. And so there's no hate. There's no competition. It's just mutual respect.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
And I appreciate you letting me talk to your audience. Hopefully your audience doesn't get pissed off at you and say, man,
no.
get that dude out of here. What the hell? But no, I appreciate just getting a chance to shoot the crap with you.
And I appreciate you coming, man.
And having
Really,
some drinks, talking to your listeners that love you and appreciate the art and the craft that you do. So I appreciate that. If you guys want to have some fun and, say, you know what, screw it, I'll listen to this nerdy guy. I do a show Monday through Friday, 12 to 1 on Walk by Faith Radio. It is religious broadcasting, KWBF 98.7 FM. It's called The Thin Line with Ken Adams. And we didn't even get into this, but I'll just wet the whistle a little bit. The reason the show's called The Thin Line is this dynamic between Judas and Peter, right? So when you think about the disciples and Jesus, because again, I'm a Christian, man. I wear this thing. I live it out. I don't walk on water. I haven't raised anyone from the dead. I'm not anything special. I'm just a dude trying to live life the way God intended me to live it. And I'm going to make a lot of mistakes along the way. I give people grace and mercy, and I ask for grace and mercy as well. That's really the crux of it all. But The Thin Line, the show is called that because one day I was doing kind of a study, and I was really high on Peter the disciple. The Catholic Church believe he was the first pope, and so there's that. So Peter's pretty up there in religious circles all the way around. Mm-hmm. Christian, Protestant, it doesn't matter. Catholic, it doesn't matter. And I was like, man, Peter was a badass dude. I really want to be like Peter. And I remember reading this and thinking, man, Peter was awesome.
Yeah.
Judas sucks. I hate Judas. That dude was garbage, man. You saw the same stuff. You walked with Jesus. How could you turn your back on him like that? And I've just felt that small voice, like we talked about, kind of becoming more thunderous, saying, there was a thin line between those two cats. And I was like, no. These guys were different. This dude was grimy. This dude was it. And I went back and I read the accounts in the gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You can read that for yourself. I went back and I read that, and I realized that Jesus told Peter what he was going to do. He said, man, you're going to deny me. And Peter's like, nah, dude, I'm your ride or die. I've got your back. I'm there to the end. Well, you fast forward time, and Peter is cussing at a little girl. He's denying the Christ, and he's not that dude that he said he was. Judas, Jesus looked right at him and said, go do what you got to go do. And it says the devil entered him, man, like he was possessed. Like he became demonic, and he went to go turn Christ in. But after he had his moment of sobriety, after the devil left him high and dry, and he was no longer king of the world, he took that 30 pieces of silver and he threw it back in the temple. And he said, guys, I got to call this off. I've sentenced an innocent man. Somewhere even Judas felt guilt. Yeah. And he was convicted, and he was like, yo, I just did something really bad. And he tried to call the deal off. But you know the difference, and it was a thin line, and this is why I named the show that. It was that Peter, he went into a depression. After he screwed up, he went to his house, he locked himself in the room, and he just hid out. I don't know if he was scared the Romans were going to kill him. I don't know if he was just depressed that he just turned on God. I don't know what happened, but he was just like, man, he just went into a depression and locked himself up, but he just didn't do anything. He was still, and he just waited. Judas, he freaked out, man. He went and hung himself. He killed himself. And what I believe happened was that thin line between Peter and Judas was that Judas tried to redeem himself. He was feeling so grimy and so dirty. He felt so unworthy. And he just said, man, I can't believe I've done this. I'm going to go kill myself. The thin line difference, the only difference between those two men was the fact that Peter believed Jesus, that he was going to rise again in 3 days and that he was going to redeem them. Judas felt so grimy that he felt unredeemable. He was like, dude, I've messed up too much. Yeah. Like, there's no redemption for me. I've got to end it. And so that's the only difference between those two, was that one believed Jesus, that he would redeem him. The other one said, I'm not worthy. I got to kill myself. And what I heard right after that was, we're all doing the same thing. Like with our wives, our husbands, our kids, our jobs. It's a thin line, man. We're either Peter or Judas one day, and we're just walking that thin line. And so I named the show that because we talk about politics and religion.
Dude, that's awesome.
And we go after it. And one day, man, and I tell people, I don't walk on water. Listen, don't follow me. I might be Judas that day. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't follow me, man. Develop your relationship with Christ yourself. I don't hold the keys to heaven. Jesus does. So follow him, not me. And one day I might be Peter. I might encourage you, and we might, break bread together and we move forward. But it's a thin line, man, and we're all dancing on that thing every day. So tune in Monday through Friday, 12 to 1, The Thin Line with Ken Adams. You can tune in at 987radio.com. I'm working on my podcast. I might actually do some recording with you guys at some point. We're working on some of those deals behind the scenes. And so 987radio.com, you can download the Live 365 app. Look for Walk by Faith Radio, and you'll see it there. And then every day, Central Time, 12 to 1, and we get after it. So it's fun. I appreciate you letting me be here, man.
Man, thank you, man. And I've got listeners of all types of listeners, man, business owners. Promote your cleaning service.
Oh, yeah, man. So I own Adams Commercial Cleaning. This is the beautiful thing about what I get to do, man, is there might be a day where I'm shaking hands with the literal governor of Texas at an event, shaking hands, taking pictures, promoting the show. And I own a cleaning company called Adams Commercial Cleaning Service. We do janitorial services for, offices, doctors' offices, lawyers' offices. We clean buildings. That's what we do, man. We're the elves that come in at night and keep that thing looking nice and tidy for you guys, refilling your soaps, your paper towels, all that stuff, cleaning your toilets. And the first show I ever did, I was like, man, I made it. Mama, I made it. I was like, I did it. And that night I had a couple of employees calling, and I was scrubbing toilets a few hours later, man. And I just thought that's the balance that God is, man. He keeps you humble. You never can just drink your own Kool-Aid. It's like, man, you know what? It's about that grind and about that work, man. So
let me knock you down just a tad.
Yeah, man. I felt like $1 million, dude. I had done my first radio show.
It was just a handshake, kid.
10,000 people. Governor, I got pictures with. I've never met the governor. I'm from the ghetto, man. This is cool. Oh, you know what? I got to go clean the toilet tonight. I got to throw some trash. Damn. I got to mop a floor. You know what? I'm about that hustle, baby. We do it. And so,
I love that story. That's awesome.
Now, that's the realness,
man. You said you were going to steal my remote control story. I'm going to steal that story.
That's the real deal, man. Yeah. Even when I hit your restroom just a while ago, I was like, smells good in here. I'm just a janitor, baby.
Yeah.
That's all I do.
Man, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming.
Hey, thank you, man.
Really quick shout out to DJ Kipo. If you are looking for a DJ coming up for any event, I know you got graduation plannings coming on the way. Hit them up, man. And once again, hit up Tigre Burrito for all your breakfast needs. That restaurant is pretty.
Yeah, that's out by my way.
Yeah, Tigre Burrito. Have you had it?
Yeah, man, I've been through there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're legit.
They are legit, man. And he's about to open up a restaurant. So right behind it, he's gonna have to have that restaurant open.
Right behind it.
Right
Okay,
behind
yeah.
it,
No,
yeah.
I know where it's at.
So
yeah,
that's
man.
not far from opening. And Patriot Paint Construction, man. Till next time, guys. Read some books.
Oh, hey, didn't see you there. This episode is brought to you by DJ Kipo. DJ Kipo handles all things like weddings, quinceañeras, anniversaries, and graduations. He's good at what he does, keeps the party going, and hit him up on IG, TikTok at DJ Keepo 806. Once again, that's DJ KEEPO 806. Oh, it's you again. This episode is brought to you by Patriot Paint and Construction. They specialize in commercial and residential. They also specialize in drywall and paint. No job is too big or too small for them. Hit them up at 806-544-7199. Oh, you're still here? This episode is brought to you by Tigre Burrito, located at 720 Highway 62 in Wolford, Texas. They're open Tuesday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. They specialize in breakfast and lunch burritos. They've also got some plates. Tell them JP Lopez sent you. But breakfast burritos are pretty fucking huge, so you better bring a big appetite. They're the shit.